Love, art, music, and real rap, meaning real conversation. I had a very real conversation on the L.A.M.A.R.R show. Check out my episode of this podcast. Just dropped. Go download it. Go search it up. Listen to it and give me feedback. RenDaWriter, the L.A.M.A.R.R show. It's out now. So this is my terrace at my apartment here in Williamsburg, Brooklyn, New York. And yeah, this is one of the perks of living where I do. We are 20 floors up, and we've got a beautiful view of the New York City skyline. You can see the Statue of Liberty, the Manhattan Bridge, the Brooklyn Bridge. Right here is the Williamsburg Bridge. You've got the Empire State Building and the Chrysler Building, and basically everything else. The train is right here. Peter Luger's Steakhouse, world famous steakhouse, is right over here. This is everything. And when the weather is nice, this is where I come to make art. You know, I spray paint canvases out here on the terrace. I'll spray paint the canvases, and then I'll go inside or work out somewhere out in the world on the pieces. But yeah, this is my terrace, and this is a beautiful perk of living where I do. I've come a long way since living in a van, and I'm very grateful. Gratitude brings abundance. So if you just stay grateful, you'll attract the abundance that you deserve, because the universe takes note. The universe is listening. Be careful what you say in it. That's a quote from Jay Electronica, one of many rappers that I have said are my favorites. And all my favorites are people that are tapped into that kind of truth. It's what it is. You can hear it, but it's not like too loud. It's not like annoying, but you can hear it. And you can walk to Manhattan in 25 minutes. Like if you step out my door and you walk one block, you're at the foot of the bridge, and then you can walk the bridge and be on the Lower East Side in 25 minutes. You could run the bridge and be there in 15, 20 minutes, you know, or bike. And then train-wise, the L train is right here. You take it one stop, you're on First Ave, and then you go over here to Marcy Ave, and you could take the J or the M, and you take that one stop to Delancey. So I'm one stop from the city. I'm a 30-minute walk, and I can see it from here. So yeah, not a bad place to live, make art, conduct podcast interviews, and you know, live life. Got a bodega right there. I got tons of restaurants, bars, coffee shops. They're all extremely overpriced, but they're all conveniently located right here.
This is beautiful. All right, welcome back to another episode of the L.A.M.A.R.R show. We love art, music, and real rap. Real rap meaning real conversation. And if you like the same, click the like, subscribe, comment, and or share. You could do one, you could do all. Either way, it's never hated and always appreciated. Finally, my next guest, I finally found him. In 2018, I saw a bunch of pictures of people holding this poster up with hip-hop's greatest names, and I'm like, oh, that's pretty dope. A few years later, I saw it on a wall, and it's just going viral. I saw all the artists just sharing it, people I knew. Then later, I found out it was in New Jersey, like not too far where I'm from. This guy is the definition of art. He expresses his art through poetry and and combines it with art, and has his own unique style of handwritten art. With all further ado, it is my pleasure to announce RenDaWriter.
Yes. Thank you for the round of applause, and it's great to be here.
How you doing, man? How you feeling?
I'm doing great, and I'm feeling great.
Yo, I finally found you. Like, you don't understand. Like, I was like, yo, who did this? Like, and then to find out it was in New Jersey was even like crazier. I'm like, yo, who did this? So to finally find you on Instagram, I had to set this up. Man.
Yeah,
Thank you for being here, man.
Thank you. Man, I'm glad you hit me up. I'm glad we're making it happen. Here we are today. But yeah, that mural I did in May of 2022, and I did it, 2023, May, this past May. So it was during the 50th year, and it was during Hip Hop Appreciation Week. A lot of people jumped on this bandwagon of celebrating hip hop this year because of the 50th anniversary. Yeah. But those who like to celebrate it annually know that the third week of May is Hip Hop Appreciation Week. And it's been that way since, I don't know, the 90s, maybe 99. I think KRS-One was the one that like
started that.
Yes.
But anyway, so I did the mural during the 50th year and during Hip Hop Appreciation Week. And all of that was just coincidental, really. The reason I did the mural was because I love hip hop and I do murals, you know? So no matter what time of year it is or what month it is, I'm always looking for ways to praise hip hop and just show my gratitude, because I'm into gratitude, period. I'm grateful for my health. I'm grateful for my girlfriend. I'm grateful for my circle of friends. I'm grateful for just being alive, you know? So I've always been into expressing gratitude. But one of the things I'm most grateful for is hip hop, because I grew up listening to hip hop. That got me into words. Being into words got me into poetry. I segued from poetry to art, and now I'm a professional artist. So I think it was around 2018 when I made this piece. I was just kind of looking at my life and I was like, man, I've been doing art professionally for a few years. I don't have to work another job. And why is that? Like, what got me into all this? And then I traced it back to hip hop, and then I decided to make this piece as a tribute to hip hop. So that's what it is.
And you started from the root. You know, you started from the root. Now, speaking of roots, where are you from? Because let's we just jumped straight into it. Let's bring it back. Where are you from?
I was born in Long Island in Deer Park. I lived there until I was 10. And then me and my family moved to Florida, and we lived in a town called Coral Springs, which is right outside of Fort Lauderdale.
Okay.
I have an older brother, a younger sister, so I'm a middle child. But the 5 of us moved to Florida in like 88. My dad got a job transfer, and my dad sold restaurant equipment. Basically anything you would find in the kitchen at a restaurant, that's what he sold. And so yeah, we moved to South Florida in 88. So I went to middle school and high school in South Florida. And then I went to college in North Florida. I went to the University of Florida, the Gators.
Okay. And what did you major in?
I majored in finance. Then I never did anything in finance at all. But, that just goes to show. I mean, I've done a lot of interviews and I've talked with people before about college and all that. And, my final take on that is like, I think it's important to go to college, or at least it was in that time. Nowadays, I definitely don't think college is necessary at all. I really don't. But at the time, I went to college because it was the thing to do. You know what I mean?
No, I understand.
I did well in high school. I had good grades.
Yeah.
I got several scholarships, and then anything that the scholarships didn't cover, my parents were able to pay for. They put me on the prepaid college program. Okay. So they were paying for my college starting at like age 12 or 13. So by the time I hit college age, the choice to go to college was just kind of a no-brainer. It was like, okay, go. All my friends are going to college, I've got good grades. We've got it covered financially. So I went to college. And I got good grades in college too. But I honestly didn't learn anything. I really don't think I learned anything that really benefits me today. And when I mentioned that I majored in finance, that's just the major I picked. I still don't even really know what finance is. Still. I mean, it's money, right? But, what is it beyond that? I don't know.
Understand what you mean.
I don't know. So I graduated with a degree in finance and like a 3.6 GPA. But around my senior year, I was like, okay, I am going to be graduating soon. I still don't know what finance is, and I don't really know what I want to do after I graduate. Yeah. So I guess I better figure it out. And it was around that time that I really just started to kind of listen to that cliche advice of like, do what you love.
Yeah.
And so at that time, 18 years old, the only thing I really loved was hip hop. And I really loved hip hop. You know what I mean? Like I was just a fanatic nerd of hip hop.
And you were there because you said 88.
Yeah.
And so you were there like basically to witness it from the beginning.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. I mean, I was born in 78. So, I was born like when like Rapper's Delight came out, But so 88, I was 10 years old. And 88 was arguably the best year in hip hop.
Big Daddy Kane,
all that.
There's too many.
Eric B. and Rakim. I mean, just everything was 88, And so I was 10 years old in 88. And, that's a good age. I think that's an age when a lot of kids first start getting into music and like, just things on their own. They spend some time in their room alone and they develop their own little world, And that's what I was doing. I was buying cassettes. I had Paid in Full by Eric B. and Rakim. I had Hot, Cool, and Vicious by Salt and Pepper. I had Crushin' by the Fat Boys.
Okay.
You know, so I had my little tape collection. I had my little dual cassette boombox.
Yeah.
And I just had like my own little world in my room, you know. But so yeah, 88, you know, was the year that we moved to Florida. And but before we moved to Florida, you know, when we were living in Long Island, I was listening to Red Alert on the radio. So that's like where I really first heard hip hop. I'm hearing whatever Red Alert was playing. Kumo D, Go See the Doctor, Houdini, The Freaks Come Out at Night. That's the kind of stuff that I was listening to. My Melody, Eric B. and Rakim. And so it was kind of like whatever I heard from Red Alert is what I then sought out to purchase on cassette. And I had an older brother. And so me and him were both buying cassettes and like trading cassettes and stuff. Then we moved to Florida, you know, and so 88, 89, 90, you know, now I'm in middle school and high school growing up in the 90s, which is another golden era, you know?
Yeah.
So, you know,
I was born in the 90s.
Heck yeah. So, you know, the 90s, then you start to get like Digital Underground and Naughty by Nature and, you know, NWA and just different, you know, people like that, and more of Big Daddy Kane and more of Eric B. and Rakim and stuff. So, you know, it was all that. But anyway, so back to the college timeline, it was like, you know, I was graduating and I didn't know what I wanted to do for a living, but I just was like, okay, they say do what you love. And I love hip hop. And so I would love to work in the record industry. And and that was kind of like my goal. My goal was being formed in this time, but I was just kind of like, okay, I love hip hop. It would be cool to work in the record industry. It would be cool to work my way up and then maybe start my own record label. And so there I was in Florida, graduating with like good grades, but I realized like that doesn't mean anything, you know, like in the record industry, they don't care if you have a college degree. They don't care what kind of grades you got. And when I started like studying people like the entrepreneurs of the record industry, people like Puff Daddy or Master P or whoever, Andre Harrell, all these, Leor Cohen, all these people, they didn't have that path. They had a path where they just like were going to Latin quarters. They were doing internships. They were like in the trenches.
Just being there, just being around.
Right. They were part of it. And I wasn't part of it. I was from Florida. So I just looked at it like, okay, if I'm going to do this, if I'm going to pursue that, then I guess I have to move to New York. And so I moved to New York. So I was originally from New York. So it wasn't like a foreign land, but literally 1 week after graduating, I moved to New York and I got an internship at Columbia Records. And so that was the path. I was like, I'm going to intern at Columbia. I'm going to work my way up, you know.
And at this time, when you were interning, who signed to Columbia at this time?
Nas. This was 2000. So Nas was signed, and I think at that time they were pushing his Nostradamus album, which was maybe the third or fourth album.
Fourth.
Yeah. So Nas was on Columbia, and like all those different Sony associated labels were in the same building. So I worked in 550 Madison. So that was Sony, Columbia, Epic Street, which had Ghostface, like the Iron Man album, I believe was on Epic. So there was like lots of, and I'm missing a bunch of names, but there was lots of rappers that were on those labels. You know, and it's not like they were all walking around the building. I don't think I met a single rapper in that time. And to be honest, the internship was not even that cool, really. I pursued that because that's what I thought I wanted.
And when you pursued it, thinking that's what you wanted, was it like in your mind, like, oh, I'm gonna run into these people, I'm gonna run into
yeah, maybe a little bit.
But
that wasn't even like the big attracting factor. Like I had a level head. I wasn't just chasing celebrities. I really wanted to
just to be around.
I wanted to like be one of them, you know. And I really, at the time, and I know this sounds weird what's going on right now, but at the time I kind of wanted to be like Puff Daddy, like you know, the way he was professionally.
But I understand.
You know, because that was his path. He interned at Uptown, and then he rose up the ranks in Uptown.
He was a blueprint. You know, besides the politics, he was a blueprint.
So that path, and at that time, I was also reading a book about him. It was an unauthorized biography of Puff Daddy. So I'm reading about him. I'm seeing how he started as an intern. I'm interning myself. And that's what I thought I wanted. But this was 2000. So this was a very pivotal year because from like 97 up through 2000 and a bit beyond was like the Napster era when people started to realize you don't have to pay for music.
Yeah.
So the record industry took a huge hit. And so in 2000, when I finished the internship, I was thinking that I could finish the internship and get myself a paid position. But at that time, every label was downsizing. They were laying off people in mass. And so I just thought that Columbia would offer me a job, and they didn't. And not only did they not offer me a job, but none of us interns were really getting jobs. They were laying people off like crazy. Although I will say there was one intern, this dude Adrian, that I interned with, and he became Tommy Mottola's personal assistant. So I don't know exactly what he did different than me. He just networked harder. He hustled harder. He was from New Jersey. He had a little more grit to him. But he became Tommy Mottola's personal assistant almost right after that internship and was his assistant for years.
Yeah. And his name one more time? I'm sorry, his name one more time?
Adrian. I don't remember his last name, but this dude Adrian, and I'm not really in touch with him. But I was for a while after. That's how I knew that he got with Tommy Mottola. But so anyway, so I did the Columbia internship, and then I was trying to get some paid position. And then I realized, or I heard from someone, that if you're not like offered a position with a label, but you still want to work with a label, then another route you could take is you could go enlist with a temp agency. And a temp agency will place you in all different industries. But when you interview with the temp agency, you can let them know up front, like, I have an interest in the record industry.
Okay.
And so that's what I did. So I worked for a temp agency. And so I did temp jobs all over Manhattan, all different types of companies, insurance agencies, law offices. And I hated all of it, to be honest. It was all stupid. Like, there's nothing fun about working in an office at all. But then they placed me at J Records, and J Records was Clive Davis's second label. Okay. So Clive Davis started Arista, and Clive Davis gave Puff Daddy his start. Bad Boy was under Arista. And so I worked at J Records. So it was a paid position, but I wasn't actually employed by J. I was employed by this temp agency. And I worked under this guy named Biff Warren, and Biff was the head of urban publicity. So I worked in the publicity department. Busta Rhymes was on the label. Okay. So we were like working the Busta Rhymes record. There was a rapper named Shells. And then outside of hip hop, they had, you remember Shells? Yeah. So they had Shells. Outside of hip hop, they had Luther Vandross. They had Rod Stewart.
Yeah, that's Clive Davis.
Yeah. They had Angie Stone.
Ooh.
So it
Alicia Keys?
Yes. And they had Alicia Keys. Yes. And so this was right after her first album dropped.
Okay.
I think I was working there between her first and second album. And I'm glad I wasn't there when her first album dropped, because her first album was such a gigantic hit that it made like a huge workload for everyone involved. You know, like I worked in publicity. So she got mad publicity for that album. So if I was working there at that time, I would have been working 15-hour days, you know, just organizing all of this publicity that she got. But anyways, so, and that was part of my job, was I had to go in every day at like 7 a.m. and I had to read like 5 periodicals. It was like the New York Times, the L.A. Times, USA Today, and 1 or 2 others. And I had to flip through every one of these publications, and then I had to manually cut out any article that had anything to do with music, especially if it was a J Records artist, but even if it was just music, period. So I had to cut out all these articles. Then I had to take all these cut out articles and photocopy them and basically create my own newspaper every day. I had to take all these photocopies and then staple them together and create like this packet. And then I had to make like 50 or 60 copies of this like custom packet that I made and then distribute it to everyone in the office. It had to be sitting at their desk by the time they came in. So from like maybe 7 a.m. until like 10 a.m., that's what I did. I spent 2-3 hours just flipping through, and it was like not that fun, you know?
That sounds crazy.
And so I did that for, 2-3 hours every single morning. I was there before anyone got there. I was getting paid, but not much, maybe $10 an hour or $12 an hour, minus taxes. And so I was like, okay, I'm working in the record industry, but I don't like it. I did not like it at all. And so, that lasted for, 5 or 6 months. And I got fired. Honestly, I wasn't very nice. Like since I wasn't happy, it was reflected in my attitude, and I think I got fired because maybe some people complained about me, I think, or something like that. They just were like, he doesn't seem happy. And so, yeah, I got fired. But then I got another job at Arista Records, and I worked in their international marketing division. So I was an administrative assistant to the woman in charge of international marketing. And that was equally as boring and unfulfilling. I mean, there was like perks at both places. I got lots of free CDs, you know, so that's cool. I had tons of free CDs. I remember I was on the phone with Usher's mom once, you know, and at J Records, I once rode the elevator with Busta Rhymes. I took his platinum record down to his car for him. Yeah. But I mean, in the grand scheme of things, how important is stuff like that? You know, it doesn't matter it now.
Sometimes stories. I heard great stories where things worked out that way.
Yeah, I guess you're right. You're right. Anything can
and it's
be
full
anything.
Circle for you because.
Yeah, well, see, now I'm meeting rappers on a whole different level. Like now I'm a grown man. I'm self-employed. I'm an artist. I have my own things to push. I have my own like movement, my own vibe, you know, but we're talking over 20 years ago when I was a fresh college grad. I was still trying to figure out my direction in life. I was thinking that I had to work for people. You know, I had bosses. I had a struggle mentality. You know what I mean? So, but I'm grateful that all of that happened. That brought me to where I am today. But if we're doing a bit of a history check on who RenDaWriter is, this is part of who I am, you know? So I did the Columbia Records, I did the J Records, I did the Arista Records. And then that was basically it for the record industry. I was like, this is not that cool, you know? And then I became more of an artist myself, you know? And I was kind of like an aspiring rapper for a bit. I had like a home computer at my house in Queens. I lived in Astoria, Queens during this time.
Okay.
And I had this program called Cakewalk, I think it was, or Cake or something. Cakewalk, I believe. And so I was recording my own music. I was rapping over instrumentals, and I put out a CD. And when I say put out, I just mean like I pressed it myself. I burned copies individually.
Yeah, because like you said, this is 20 years ago. So for some of my viewers who are my age, who maybe forgot, and people who are younger, explain to them that process, because there was no.
Well, I had like this $20 Radio Shack microphone plugged into my computer, my desktop computer.
Desktop.
Big, bulky computer.
That has to be plugged in.
Yeah, and
no Wi-Fi.
No Wi-Fi, dial-up connection, and I rapped these lyrics that I had written in my notebooks. And
you remember your name?
Renda. It's always been Renda.
Okay.
Yeah, totally.
Well, at that time, was it just Renda or RenDaWriter?
And during that time, it was just Renda. I just went by Renda, nice like name. It was one word, you know.
Renda.
But yeah, so I just I recorded this CD, you know, and it was just me rapping over different instrumentals and stuff like that. And then I sold the CD on the street, and I did like 3 CDs actually. It wasn't like the success of one made me do the second, or the success of 1 and 2 made me do the third. It was just the the delusion or the joy of doing it that made me press on. But so I made, these 3 CDs. I sold them on the street. At the same time, also, as I got out of working in these offices, I started working for different comedy clubs as a comedy club promoter, selling tickets to comedy clubs on the street. So that's like, I often refer to that period in my life as like, that's when I became a man. Like, that's when I discovered how to be a confident man. You know what I mean? Like, before that, I was like this starry-eyed, fresh college grad, fresh from Florida, naive in some ways, just new to the world. But once I started working on the street and I realized, okay, I'm out here on the street for 10 hours a day. And if I don't sell these tickets, I don't eat.
Yeah.
So you better learn confidence. You better learn how to talk to people, and so I learned how to talk to people in general. I especially learned how to talk to women, and so that fine-tuned like that aspect of my confidence, like, okay, so if I could approach this stunningly beautiful girl under the premise that I'm trying to sell her comedy tickets, within a few minutes of conversing with her, I realized, it's kind of the same thing if I wanted to approach a girl to just ask her out, So I just learned a lot about myself and, how to be a man, I guess you could say, during those few years,
Question, because I kind of went through an experience like that too. I moved to Georgia, and us being from up north, I guess you can call it city kids. Did that help your transition to becoming the person that you're speaking of now?
Yeah, you mean all that time of being on the street and stuff?
Of being in Florida.
Oh,
Of being in Florida.
yeah. I mean, everything in my
It's kind
past.
of a different environment. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, everything in my past has helped me to become what I am now. But you know,
But I mean that specifically because like the South is like for me it was like you don't have that many trains going by. You still see people.
Yeah, but also where I lived in Florida is definitely not the South. You know,
Okay.
Geographically it's the South.
Yeah.
But South Florida is kind of jokingly referred to as the sixth borough of New York, because South Florida is a lot of people from New York, New Jersey, Boston,
Yeah.
California, even whatever. But in South Florida, there's not a lot of like native Floridians.
Okay.
And now when you go a little bit north from South Florida, when you get into Orlando and a little north of that, then you meet and see Floridians.
Nah, yeah.
And then some of those Floridians are like the South. But the real South starts with Georgia.
Yes.
You know, and it's Georgia, South Carolina, Alabama. That's
They're having a lot
South.
of debates on that right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's
Geographically, I get it, but everybody having that debate right now.
Yeah, and it is debatable, but you know, that's what kind of makes America beautiful, and what makes it interesting is the variety of cultures we have and the variety of interpretations that we have of these cultures and the juxtaposition of different types of people in different places. But yeah, so I was born in New York. I was raised in New York and South Florida.
Okay.
You know, and my young adult life was a lot in New York, and then I moved back to Florida. But I don't think I ever experienced the South. You know, I mean, later in life I did and I guess we'll get to this, but later in life I lived out of my van, and I lived all over America in my van. And so I spent time in the real South and the real Midwest, and I started to see like, oh, this is America. Because Florida and New York are not America. You know, I mean, they are technically,
I know what you mean.
but they're also not. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, so I don't know. I did, you know, all that stuff that I'm talking about, the time on the street selling the comedy tickets and the time rapping and selling my CDs. That's when I got into poetry. So this is, you know, the early 2000s, and from the late 90s into the early 2000s, spoken word poetry started to kind of take off.
Yes.
Spoken word and slam poetry became a thing. And
Like
that
Def
was
Jam. Was that around that time? Okay.
that was largely because of Def Poetry Jam.
Mhm.
It was because of Def Poetry Jam, and it was because of this movie called Slam that
I remember
starred
that.
Saul Williams.
Yes.
Yeah.
I remember that. That was good.
So the movie Slam and Def Poetry Jam and some other things made slam poetry a thing. And lots of people across America were really getting into slam poetry, and especially in New York. And so I was in New York during a lot of the time that slam and spoken word was exploding. And so that became a big part of my life during those years of like 2000, 2001, 2, and 3. I was performing every Monday night at Bar 13 in Union Square. I was performing at the New Eurekan Poets Cafe, which is a mecca for poets and rappers. Mos Def and Talib Kweli met there, and lots of rappers came up there. Immortal Technique used to perform there all the time. So, you know, I was performing at New Eurekan, at Bar 13, and I was in a lot of these environments that were like rap and poetry, you know, and spoken word poetry is like the stepson of rap music.
Yeah.
So I really found myself there, and again, that was more of like the making of the man that I am, you know. And so those years I remember very fondly, and like they were all very important to me, and they were much more important than the stupid time I spent working in these offices, you know. But then I moved to Florida in like 2004. I moved, you know, back to Florida. But now I moved back as a poet, as a young man, you know, and as a person that lived in New York. So I came back with a sharper edge. Like now I'm a New Yorker in Florida, you know, and I wasn't really moving right back to my old Florida roots. I was now reestablishing myself in Florida and you know, making a new group of friends, because a lot of my high school friends and college friends graduated, got jobs, got married, and had kids.
Yeah.
And I definitely didn't do that. So I was like, I can't relate. You got like a 2-month-old baby, and You know, you like watch football games. I don't really do that stuff, you know. And I was like trying to be something, you know. I don't know. I just was like, I'm a star. I don't know. I'm something different. I'm a poet. I had a nose ring. I had huge spiked hair. I was different. So yeah. But anyway, so then when I got back to Florida, now 2004, I had all this experience of these open mics in New York, and so I started searching for open mics in South Florida, and I found some, and I performed at some open mics that were really cool, but there wasn't a lot of them. And so I decided to start my own events. And I was very inspired by the quote, if there's a book you would like to read and you cannot find it, that means you must write it.
Mm.
You know what I mean? So that quote, that's what influenced me, because I was like, okay, well, in this analogy, the book is the open mic. So there's open mics that I want to go to, but I'm not quite finding them. So that means I need to host them. I need to put them together myself. And so, you know, that was like chapter 2 or 3 in like the making of the man that I became today. And so during that chapter of like 2004 to like basically 2014, I was an event host, and I was hosting and producing and promoting my own open mic nights. And my open mic nights were for poets and rappers and singers and comedians and singer-songwriters and everything. And so I started also meeting a lot of visual artists during this time.
Okay.
And so all that influenced me, you know? And so by 2010 and 11, the fact that I was meeting visual artists started to rub off on me. And I started to meet artists for the first time in my life, really, visual artists, other than like learning about Michelangelo in school or Picasso. Now I was meeting regular people my own age that were artists, that were visual artists. And I realized not every one of these artists went to art school, and not every one of these artists did super realistic art. Some of them just did abstract stuff. Some of them basically did like doodles. And it was like,
and so
wow.
How did that go? Like, were they just they were doing it on the spot? Was someone rapping at the same time?
Well, I just my open mic nights just became like an attraction point for artists in general of all genres, you know, whether it was performance or visual. So yeah, there were artists that were hanging out at my events and were doing their own thing in like a sketchbook.
Yeah.
But then I started kind of like booking artists, like, hey, how about you do live art next Monday, and I'll put you on the flyer.
Okay.
Live art featuring this guy or this girl or whatever. So, you know, that's how I started to meet a lot of these visual artists and just became friends with them. And then, so it was during that era that I found myself as an artist, as a visual artist. But it wasn't really that hard to find myself, because all I did was tap into the fact that all along my handwriting had been a thing.
Yeah.
You know, and so it was just at that time that I realized that thing could be art. But during all those years that I was doing poetry, before I started doing anything visual, my handwriting was very much a part of my presentation as a poet. So my business cards were handwritten. My website had a whole handwriting vibe. And then even before that, if we go back
to your own website?
Yeah, no, I had like a webmaster back then. Yeah. But so handwriting was always my thing. Before I was a visual artist, even before I was a poet, when I was just a student in school, writing was just a very big defining characteristic of who I was. Like the act of writing, what I was writing, and then the look of the words, the aesthetic of my handwriting, you know? And so then as a poet, you know, I'm just going by Renda, and I had rendathepoet.com, and it was all about the look of my words. But then, like I said, 2010, 11, 12, 13, I start to see that I can do this vibe of the handwriting that could be my art. And so I started doing I developed a very consistent look of blue ink on yellow paper, yellow legal paper, and blue ink, like a Pilot G2 pen. That was my vibe. That was my look. That's what I was doing. So I started just taking yellow sheets of paper and just filling them up with like stream of consciousness thought. And then I would frame them and sell them. And then I started, after like a failed relationship. I then started like living out of my car, kind of out of necessity. And then living out of the car brought me a little closer to the street. And I was always a street person, however we want to define that. But I've always been into
No, I know what you mean.
the street. I've always been into finding stuff in the street. I can't walk by a garbage without looking in it. You know what I mean? I can't walk by a dumpster without looking in it or going in it.
One man's trash, another man's treasure.
Yes. And that's another, statement that I identify with big time. But so, yeah, I just was always intrigued by the street and just being outdoors and like being in the right place at the right time and being able to discover like the gifts of the street. And so, so 2011, 12, 13, I started doing a lot of what they would call found object art or folk art, which is basically making art out of things you find in the street. And so I was living out of my car. And so, also when you're living out of your car, you're never really like relaxing. It's not like when you have an apartment and you come home from work and you relax and you sit on the couch and you watch TV. There was no relaxing. So I was just on 24/7. And so the only thing I can do to relax would be walk the street. And then when I would find stuff, I would find usually wood, like furniture wood. And a lot of this was in like Palm Beach County and the Boca Raton area and the Fort Lauderdale area and then the Miami area. And so 2013 is when I like really started staying in Miami Beach. And I was living out of my car. I had like a Ford Explorer and I was sleeping in my car and I was walking the streets of Miami Beach every night. And I would find a piece of wood, like furniture wood or whatever. And then I would just sit on the curb and write on it. And I would write words, phrases, short poems, things like that. And then, blah, 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 that turned into where I am today. So, I'll turn it back to you more if you want to get into other questions.
You. But that's
kind
of
at
the same time. Like,
yeah. And, I like to walk you through the chronological, like, progression of my life. But, we could kind of go in other directions. But that is sort of like, in summary, how I got into doing art. So I just summarized that by saying it was like hip hop to poetry to event hosting and just being a man of the community, the art community, and to then being an artist. And all these things influenced me, living out of my car, living in Florida, living in New York, performing at open mics, working in the record industry, listening to hip hop, listening to poetry, reading, all that stuff just made me who I am,
Well, obviously, with all this, it's the living proof that things came out good. So before we get into the good, we're going to take a quick 5-minute break.
Okay, let's do it. Yeah, all
right, we back. Man, you told us that wonderful story. Like that's a lot. That really is a lot. And what age are you at this time?
Well, everything we were talking about was like age 10 through like age 24.
Oh, okay, through 24. Okay.
Yeah. I was around 24 when I moved from New York back to Florida. After all that time working in the record industry and the time hitting these open mics in New York at New Eurekan and whatnot. But I was about 24 when I came back to Florida and started hosting all my own events.
And what was the name of that? What's the name of it? What was
the name of what?
The event
that I hosted?
Yeah, that you hosted.
All different ones, man.
They were different. Okay.
Yeah, I did open mic Mondays at the Hideout Bar and Grill in Boca Raton. I did open mic Wednesdays at the Funky Buddha Lounge in Boca Raton. I was aggressive, man. I was about that life.
And this is all in the same time as living in the van?
No, this was this was when I lived in an apartment. I had a girlfriend and we lived together in Boca Raton. And that time that I was with her and stayed in that apartment was like 3 to 4 years. Then we broke up and I started living out of my car, and I was still hosting open mics living out of my car. So I'm living out of my car, showering at the beach, and then going to some, coffee shop or restaurant or bar and cleaning up and hosting until 1 or 2 in the morning, and then getting back in my car and just driving anywhere to sleep, and then doing it all again the next day, and going to like a coffee shop during the day to use my MySpace to promote all these events and stuff. But then when you get by 2014, I had all the events started to kind of dwindle. Like some of the places I was doing the events at started to go out of business, and my passion for it was dwindling a bit. And
this is all still while living in a van, because you said from that.
No, this was living in a car.
I mean, in
regular cars. But so the van life chapter, which is exciting and which we'll get into now. So that around 2014, I bought a van. I was actually
that's
without.
what I'm trying to wait. So like from what year did it start in the car to lead up to
2010.
So 2010. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's a 4-year span that you were in a car making all these moves.
Roughly.
Now, this is important because there's some people who not making any moves. So to be doing all that and you in a car.
Yeah, I mean, if you're not making any moves, you're not going to get any results. So I knew that. I've always known that. If you want something, you got to do something. What you reap is what you sow. So you're not going to reap anything if you're not sowing any seeds. So I was putting in work, and it all came natural to me. It's not like I needed motivation or anything. I just been a hard worker my whole life. I started working at like age 10. Living with my parents and stuff, but working actual jobs. But so, anyways, like all that stuff, like living out of the car and everything, it wasn't like a struggle. It was just kind of like what I'm doing, I never really wanted sympathy. I never played the victim. Like I just did it. I just lived. And then there was a period of time where I had no vehicle at all. And I was just crashing on a friend's couch in Miami. And I got a job. I worked at like a juice shop. Okay. So I was like making juice at this juice shop. And then I transitioned to working at their production kitchen, which was this huge warehouse of a kitchen, where then I started making juice like in mass for all of their locations. So 2013, the whole year of 2013, that was my life. I had no vehicle at all. I was crashing on a friend's couch for like $200 a month. I was riding my bike everywhere. Okay. And I was making juice and I was just stacking my money. And then I stacked up like 14 grand. And I was like, I got 14 grand. This is the most money I've ever had in my entire life. It's time to make a move. And so with 14 stacked up, I quit my job and I bought a van. And that's what started the van life. And so 2014, I had been doing art for a few years, but I hadn't really been like monetizing it. Okay. I was just doing art as a way to pass the time, because there was nothing else to do. Like I said, there was no relaxing. It was just, you're out in the street, man. It's almost like why you understand like why homeless people become like alcoholics or drug addicts, because it's like you're just on the street. Like what else are you gonna do? And then if it's there, you try it and then you're hooked. Mm-hmm. But I didn't go that route, and I wasn't like homeless living on the street. But I'm just saying I understand that. I understand that dynamic, But so for me, art was a better alternative than drugs or alcohol, and so I was doing art like a drug, and by the end of 2013, I had the courage and I had the nest egg to leave that job, buy a van, and realize, okay, I've been doing art casually for a few years and I've sold like a few pieces, but now it's time. Like now I believe in myself. And so
you gained that confidence you was talking about.
Yeah. The confidence that I had, started building in around 2000, now I'm like 33 or so, you know what I mean? So now I'm like 33 years old and I'm like, okay, I bought a van and it's a vehicle that I can sleep in, but it's...
Did you pimp it out? Because I know you're an artist. Did you
No, I really didn't. I didn't want to like make it too much of a thing. I wanted to be kind of discreet. So I definitely didn't like, that. I didn't like do any art on the outside.
Because then everybody gonna come up to your van. They're gonna be looking inside. Like,
and I didn't want that. A lot of people used to ask me that. They'd be like, "Why don't you do something on your van?"
No, that makes sense. That makes sense.
I was like, "Yeah, that's not the vibe I'm going for." But so around age 33, 34, we're talking 2013, 14, and 15. Then I started living out of a van, and I was comfortable and confident with my art, and I just kind of started building from there. And so that is a separate chapter, and that's a chapter that's only 2 or 3 chapters removed from where I am right now, but all these chapters are beautiful to me. They're fun to reminisce on, but that's the one that most closely ties to where I am now. I mean, I just got out of the van life like 2.5 years ago, maybe 2 years ago. So that whole lifestyle is still very fresh to me. It's still kind of weird to be here and be like, this is my apartment. I can just shower whenever
said,
I
I didn't
want.
want to say it, but nah, like
Yeah.
if they can see what I like, I'm like, this is
I came up.
inspirational, man.
Yeah.
Like, yo, seriously, that's inspirational. Like,
I
this is
came
beautiful.
up. But yeah, so that was
you made your own world. My bad, but you made your like how because I remember you saying when you become a kid, that age where you create your own world.
Yeah.
So now your gift, you created your own little world, man.
Yeah. It's like all the stuff I was doing in my bedroom as a kid is now an extension of me out here, and that's why I'm always praising hip hop, because it was that thing that was there for me as a child, and almost anyone my age was raised on hip hop,
and younger.
Yeah, I mean, hip hop is just this global phenomenon. There's nothing more American than hip hop. I mean, I realize the blues is very American. I realize baseball is very American. There are lots of things that are very American, but hip hop is about as American as you can get. And well, now it's global, but I'm saying its roots.
I understand what you mean. Yeah.
All of its roots are in America, and some of those roots are New York, some of them are L.A. Miami even has roots that go back to the very early 80s.
Yeah.
But so I'm just saying, like, anyone in my age bracket or even less, hip hop was undeniably a part of your growing up. And maybe other forms of music too. Music, period, is just where kids. I was into heavy metal too and stuff, and
what bands? I was never heavy in it, but I know a couple.
Well, yeah, for me it wasn't really heavy metal, but I liked Guns N' Roses.
Of course.
I liked Metallica a little bit, but I liked Guns N' Roses a lot. I liked Skid Row big time, and then a little bit of like Motley Crue. But that was also important. You know what I mean? Like in my middle school, everyone was either like into hip hop or metal. It was kind of divided because when you're young, a lot of things divide you. Everything is about trying to find your little clique. So it was almost like you had to identify with one or the other, and it was like, I don't know, that was just my experience at my school. That's how the kids were. And so it was even like declared, like there were days where like, I remember me and I had this close friend, Mark, shout out to Mark Dockham. But it was like, I think I remember one day either him or I like declared like, I'm not a metalhead anymore. I'm a bass head. That's what we called it, So it was like, it was immature, but what do you expect from 13-year-old kids? But that was it. We had like these clear lines, like, I am not a metalhead, I am throwing out my cassettes, stuff like that. But anyways, I some of this heavy metal.
Did you actually throw it out?
Yeah, I think I did, or he did, or something. There was definitely like these declarative.
That was serious.
These like gestures of like allegiance and like new allegiance and stuff like that, and leaving things behind. But just silly kid stuff. But whatever. I'm just saying now at 45, when I look back at all this. Yeah, truth is, a lot of that rock and metal was a part of my upbringing too, and I really loved Skid Row and Guns N' Roses. Patience by Guns N' Roses is still one of my all-time favorite songs, and that's more of like a ballad. That's Axl Rose just like singing. It's not like even a rock song, but that was another reason I liked it. But then Sweet Child of Mine and Welcome to the Jungle, all that was good stuff. And so now at 45. Yeah, I like hip hop. You can see I'm all about it, but I love all music, all music. And, so no 45 should be acting like a middle schooler in terms of their musical preference. But, so yeah, that's kind of like some of my history, and then, the van life. Yeah. So like I got my first van in 2014. Okay. And I had 3 vans, not all at the same time.
Oh, okay.
One after another. So in 2014, I bought a van and I had that for like maybe 4 years. Then I bought another van and I had that for about 4 years or so. And then my third van I had for like less than a year.
And are these minivans, caravans?
No, they were what you call a conversion van. Those vans that were like popular in the 80s. That were like these family vans, they were like road trip family vans. A lot of them had like
the TV in it. Yeah, I remember that. I watched the Super Bowl in that.
Yeah. And all 3 of my vans had a TV, but none of them even worked. And even if they did, I wouldn't have watched them, to be honest. It's just, I still had that mentality of like, there's no relaxation. Yeah. And if there's time to relax, then I'm going to be making art. And making art is a form of relaxation, but it's also a form of commerce and business, you know? So yeah, but you know, so I did 3 different vans, and a lot of my early van life was me living in Miami and South Florida. And then also peppered in there were some relationships too. And not that I want to like devote a whole lot of this interview talking about my personal life or relationships, but they were part of it.
That's a part of the journey,
you know,
especially as a man, that affects you. That affects you.
So I don't want to skip over it either, but I don't want to go too in detail. But either way, you know, I got into a relationship that lasted like a little over 4 years. But when I met her, I was living out of a van. And so, to be honest, that was interesting because it's like I live out of a van and this is who I am. And I'm confident and secure in who I am, a man that lives in a van. But I also like women, you know, and want to be involved with them. But a girl's got to like accept me for who I am. And it's a weird dynamic. Like you're a normal woman and you live in an apartment. Yeah. You're dating this guy that lives in a van. Like, where is this going to go? Are you going to try and get me to move in with you? If I do that, am I giving up a part of myself? You know, so it did create an interesting resistance or an interesting dynamic that I had to figure out, you know? And so I was in this one relationship with a girl in Miami, and it kind of ended up being that I would like stay in my van a few nights a week, but I would stay with her a few nights a week. And so we dated for a while, and it was a decent relationship, but then it ended. And then when it did, I got like much more serious about the van life and much more serious about my art and my art career. And I was like, I do not even need a woman. I don't need nothing like that. I just need to be about my art and about this freedom of living in the van. And then, you know, I started doing murals, and now the murals are a big part of who I am. This murals is all I think about and talk about, you know? And so I did my very first mural at the end of 2014. And so by 2015, I started doing, you know,
What was it? What was the first mural?
The very first mural I did was in the Wynwood Art District. So that might not, you know, resonate or ring bells with people up here in New York, but in general, across the worldwide art community, they know that the Wynwood Art District in Miami is an epicenter for art worldwide. And so I had the pleasure of doing my first ever mural in the Wynwood Art District. So that was the end of 2014. And that mural, what that was it was this huge blue wall. It was like 40 feet by 40 feet. And I wrote the phrase, my original phrase, which came from my poetry. I wrote, "Love is a risk, do it anyway." And I wrote that phrase over and over on this wall.
Wait, can we make some noise for that? Make some noise for that?
But yeah, and that came from my poetry. And so, you know, like I've already said a few times, but now here's kind of like the proof, is that all my art comes from my poetry. And so all my art, which you see around my apartment and stuff, and which you might see on my Instagram or whatever, that art is poetry. You know what I mean? These phrases that I put in my art, these are phrases that have come from poems. So all that time I was talking about where I was a hardcore poet, I was performing like 3 and 4 minute long poems.
Okay.
But then, you know, when we got to that period of me living out of the car and the van and doing stuff on found object, I was writing whole poems on pieces of wood and stuff, but then I started to shrink it down. And this was also around the time I got on Facebook. Okay. And around the time everyone was getting on Facebook. And what I noticed is like
from MySpace to Facebook.
Yeah, it was the MySpace to Facebook transition. And you know, people behaved a little different on MySpace as opposed to Facebook. And I feel
especially in the beginning.
I feel like on Facebook, a lot of people started, it was almost like everyone became a poet of sorts. And everyone became like a poet or a comedian or a philosopher because everyone started to realize, oh, this thing, Facebook, I could just like type a sentence or two and see how people react, you know? So everyone was trying to be funny or poetic or insightful. And I'm not knocking that. That's the way the world progressed.
No, that's real. No,
but I'm saying like, that was my observation. I was like, okay, so poetry used to be something that only poets did at events. Comedy used to be something that comedians did at comedy shows. But now I see like social media has made everyone feel like they can do those things in like bite-sized increments, you know, and Twitter too. So Twitter and Facebook, people are just kind of throwing these little things out there and feeling like that's what they are. And then for some of us, that was good because it made us that which we thought we are. for others, they just were posers and they were like copying other people's stuff and whatever. But my point is that during that era, during that chapter of my life, is when I learned to kind of distill a lot of these big thoughts and these huge long poems, distill them down to like phrases, because I started to see that's what the people want. So love is a risk, do it anyway. Your comfort zone will kill you. Anybody can be anybody. Everything is happening. I'm on the universe's payroll. These are all original phrases of mine that were once embedded somewhere in a poem, but then I started to isolate them, and I was testing some of them out on social media, but even more so, I was testing them out, writing them on pieces of garbage and stuff, and then murals. And so, like I said, end of 2014, I did this Love is a Risk, Do It Anyway mural, and that was around the time I got on Instagram. So that started the Instagram chapter, and that mural was a huge hit in Miami, and because of Instagram, it was a huge hit around the world. And so I built up a pretty solid Instagram following in 2015, and to this current day. But 2015, my Instagram following grew because of that mural and because of all the other murals that I then did in 2015 and 16 and so on. But that's what that chapter was all about, like becoming a mural artist and becoming a social media person or whatever. I don't want to say influencer.
No.
But a person really involved in social media, And so
I saw because I want to go back just a little bit, because I remember that phrase, your comfort zone will kill you, was going viral. You know what I mean? It was in whether you do fitness.
Yeah.
And it was just going everywhere. So I didn't even know who originated that. And to find out that you did did you ever trademark that or anything like that?
Yeah. I'm kind of like working on it, you know. But just the fact that I have documentation that I've been writing it since 2012 and that stuff is documented and time stamped, that is a form of trademark on its own. So I just keep pushing it. If other people want to claim that they invented it or they want to put it out there or monetize it in some way, cool. I don't have the energy to shift into chase after you type energy.
Yeah.
I'm busy doing me.
Exactly.
And I'm creative. I could come up with 100 more sayings, But yeah, your comfort zone will kill you did kind of go viral, but it didn't really go viral with my name attached,
Exactly. No, I understand.
It took off. But then after a while, once I latched onto that, I started letting people know. So then a lot of people did realize I'm the guy. And actually one of the first pieces of proof that I came across that it was really blowing up was Joe Clair. Do you know Joe Clair?
No, Joe Clair.
Joe Clair was the host of Rap City on BET. So
before Tigger?
I really don't remember if he was before or after. Rap City had a lot of different hosts. They had Big Les, they had Prince DeJour.
I was young.
Yeah, Prince DeJour. Oh no, Chris Thomas was the first.
Okay.
Chris Thomas was the very first host of Rap City, and it was called Rap City, and he called himself the mayor. He was like, this is Chris Thomas, the mayor of Rap City. And then it went from Chris Thomas to Prince DeJour, and then in came Big Les and Joe Clair and probably some others that I'm forgetting. And some of this, there was an overlap too, but whatever. Joe Clair was definitely one of the main hosts during the time that I grew up watching Rap City. But then fast forward around 20, maybe 15 or 16, Joe Clair posted a Your Comfort Zone Will Kill You pic of mine. I had written Your Comfort Zone Will Kill You on a red wall in Miami in white spray paint. And that particular picture blew up. That went very, very, very viral. But not so much with my name attached, but it went viral. But somehow it came to my attention that he posted it. And that rocked me, because I was like, I grew up watching this guy, and I just that was an accomplishment to me or something. I don't know. That was something.
Yeah, but then that's what I want to ask really quick, because that happens a lot though in art. I realize I hear a lot of those stories, and to me, a lot of artists don't really like. I don't want to say they don't like to get paid for their work, but they're kind of more they iffy about it, because it's I would do this anyway. This is my passion, but at the same time, it's situations like that where your hero is bigging you up, but he doesn't know that he's bigging you up. You know what I mean? So like, how do you feel about that?
Well, then I met him later, a couple of years after that. Yeah, a couple of years after that, I met him at the Kennedy Center. The same time I met like Large Professor and Pharoah Monch. And I was at the Kennedy Center with this piece, and I was just holding it.
Yeah.
And then Joe Clair saw me from a distance, and he was like, "What is that?" I was like, "This is my art." And he goes, "How much?" And I was like, $50. And he pulled out a 50 and handed it to me. And that whole thing happened in like 10 seconds. So it was like, boom, in 10 seconds, Joe Clair from Rap City just bought my art. And so then after I gave him the art, I said, "Can I take a picture?" And then I said to him, I was like, "Bro, you remember on Instagram you posted your comfort zone will kill you like a while back?" And he was like, "Yeah." And I was like, "Bro, I'm the one that created that." And I showed him my arm, that I have it tattooed. And he was like, "That was you?" And so that was a very full circle moment. It was like I grew up watching his show. Fast forward some years, he's posting my art, not knowing it's me. Fast forward some years, I meet him. He buys my art. I get to tell him that I'm also the guy behind Your Comfort Zone Will Kill You. So, my life is just filled with stories like that because that's how I live. I attract serendipity. I attract, I attract and manifest good situations because I put out good energy. It's law of attraction. You attract what you put out. But so when Joe Clair posted that was one of the first times that like a celebrity of any type posted my art.
Okay. And
it was one of the first times that I realized like the viral nature of my art. And then that phrase kind of had a few cycles of going viral. You know what I mean? Like went viral, like meaning was shared a lot for a few months and then it died down and then another round, so that phrase and that particular picture with the white writing with the red background, that like had several rounds of going viral. But then fast forward, Jamie Lee Curtis, Jamie Lee Curtis, the actress, she was driving around LA and she saw a mural I did that said, "Love is a risk, do it anyway." Yeah. And she took a picture and posted it on her Instagram. And that was quite an accomplishment. And then Elizabeth Gilbert, who is an author, and she wrote the book Eat, Pray, Love, which was then made into a movie starring Julia Roberts. Yeah. Elizabeth Gilbert, the author of Eat, Pray, Love, she came across one of my murals in Miami, a love mural where I just wrote the word love all over in green. She posted that on her Instagram. Rhyme Fest, do you know Rhyme Fest?
Yeah.
So, and for those of you that don't know, Rhyme Fest is amazing. But Rhyme Fest is a rapper from Chicago. He grew up with Kanye West. He collaborated on a lot of tracks with Kanye West. That song Brand New, which was dope. And then he also wrote Jesus Walks, arguably one of Kanye West's biggest songs. I don't know if he's technically a co-writer or whatever, but he is officially listed as a writer of Jesus Walks, which is an amazing song. But Rhyme Fest was in Miami, and he took a picture of one of my red love murals, and he tagged me and stuff. And then we started talking and everything. So, I guess these are all cool little feathers in the hat. I don't like to like brag much. And believe it or not, I'm not really that into celebrity or celebrity culture, but I'm an artist and I understand the power that celebrities have.
Exactly.
And so if their power overlaps with my own power, and if their reach helps expand my reach, well then cool. I am a fan of celebrities to that extent,
It's a mutual exchange.
Yeah.
Because somebody might be like, "Well, why are you taking a picture? Why is it, who's important? What's important about this guy holding your art?" And then you tell them this is such and such, and now they're going back listening to their music. So
and then and then some of these people I already liked Rhyme Fest music. I had already seen the movie Eat, Pray, Love. I had already seen some Jamie Lee Curtis movies. I had watched Rap City with Joe Clair, so I had like some tie with some of these people, But then when I did this piece in 2018, and now I have 5 books filled with rappers and producers that I've given this to. That whole ongoing chapter of meeting rappers or producers or DJs and giving them this, that all started with Wyclef from the Fugees. Wyclef,
he from where I'm from, man.
Yes,
Jersey, man.
Jersey.
Big up Wyclef, man.
But Wyclef of the Fugees and Hakeem Green of Channel Live, another Jersey guy.
Yep.
Those were the first 2 rappers that I gave this art to. And I didn't make this art with the intention of giving it to rappers. I made this art because I make art. It's like you were saying. I just, even if I didn't get paid anything, I would be making art. I do like to get paid though, but
as you should, man.
Yeah.
You gotta make a living. Yeah,
Yeah.
as you should. Yeah.
I'm definitely not one of those artists that's so artsy that they refuse money or they refuse recognition. I know where I am. I know where my place is. Like, I do what I love, so I love it. So it doesn't matter if I get paid. But now that I'm used to getting paid, and now that I know how much I do not like working regular
You know
jobs,
your value. You know your
yeah,
worth. Mm-hmm.
exactly. I know my value. I know my worth in the workplace, in the world on the whole. I know that what I do has value. So I'd be pretty stupid to refuse that value, or to reject any kind of a paycheck or recognition or whatever. So I'm not obsessed with it or money hungry, but I really do like making money doing what I love. So, but yeah, I made this piece just to pay tribute to hip hop. But then after I met Wyclef and after I met Hakeem Green, and then I got Bumpy Knuckles, and I never even met Bumpy Knuckles, but that was around the time I started really getting deep into Instagram. And I was like, wow, a lot of these rappers are on Instagram, and it seems like it's really them.
Yeah. And
so,
it's easier to get it.
Yeah, so I just hit up Bumpy Knuckles, and I sent him the picture of Wyclef and the picture of Hakeem Green. And I was like, yo, I got this art for you with your name on it. Yeah. Can I mail it to you? Because I wasn't in New York at the time. I guess I was in Florida somewhere.
Okay.
And he lived in New York. And then it was interesting because then he gave me his address, and he lives in Deer Park. And that's where I live. That's where I was born, in New York. When I told you I was born in Long Island. So he gives me his address, and it was this Deer Park address. And then I wrote back, I'm like, bro, I'm from Deer Park originally. And then he said something, and I'm like, wow, I'm engaging in conversation with Bumpy Knuckles, Freddie Fox. And so he gave me his address. I mailed him the art, and then he framed it, and he took a picture of himself holding it, and he put it on Instagram, and he tagged me. So Wyclef, Hakeem, and Bumpy Knucks were the first three. And then I was like, oh, okay, so this is a thing. I am gonna make it a point to meet different rappers and give them the art. And, give it to them. Even though I pay to print it, I pay to frame it, I pay to drive to your show and get in and all that. It was just an expression of gratitude, And I was making money now selling my other canvas pieces, making money doing murals. And I was like, it's okay if 10 to 20% of my income goes towards this effort because I'm enjoying myself, And so I guess, and back to kind of where another spot we were on the timeline, I was saying I was in that relationship and stuff in Miami, but then when we broke up, then and I was living in a van before I met her, but then when we broke up, then I had much less of a tie to Miami. So then I was like, why don't I really take advantage of living in a van and just go all over America? And so I did. So, but I guess we broke up sometime in maybe 2018, I guess. I really don't remember. But after we broke up, then I started being much more mobile, and I started to explore North Carolina. And even when I was way before this, during the open mic time, when I was doing all these open mics in Florida, I met some people that had some ties to Asheville, North Carolina. Okay. So I was always curious about Asheville. I always heard really good things about it. And so then once I had the van and a huge sense of freedom and some money in my pocket, I was like, I'm going to Asheville. And so I went to Asheville, and that's where I did my very first out-of-state mural. The first mural I ever did out of Florida was in Asheville. And I spent some time in Asheville, and then, whatever. Fast forward, now I've done murals all over America and in many other countries. I've done 8 countries altogether. Mexico, Haiti, Spain, France, England, Trinidad,
okay,
and Italy. Did I say Italy? Italy, Spain, France, England, Mexico. Yeah. There's 8 in there somewhere, but but so I was traveling a lot in 2019 all around America, and I was very free.
All in a van.
Yeah. And now, a van, which was much more comfortable than a car. We gotta make
some noise for that.
And I had a bed, and I had all my art supplies in there. I had tons of spray paint. I had tons of blank canvases. I had tons of finished pieces. So I could go anywhere and just pop up and be like, this is my art, and make money and do things. I had all sorts of art in my bed. I literally slept on top of art. You know what I mean? And I had art in my bed, art under my bed, art under all the seats, spray paint everywhere, boxes of paint markers, just everything. And then some clothes, you know, and my wardrobe was simple. I would wear a bathing suit almost every day. I had like a whole year where I didn't wear underwear, bro, like for real. I just was like, nah, keep it simple,
You
you
just
know?
wearing your swimming trunks.
Basically, yeah. And flip flops, you know, especially when
Yeah.
you're in like Florida,
Yeah, I'm
places
gonna
like
say,
that.
yeah.
The dress code is whatever, you know?
Nah, yeah.
But yeah, so I just was traveling a lot. And then, you know, and this is much more recent, but then when COVID hit, then I was like really driving all over because in 2018 and 19 and beginning of 2020, I was living in a van and I was, for the most part, in the Miami area. And I was out of that relationship. So I didn't have much of a real commitment to Miami, but I was participating in a lot of art shows and a lot of art events. And a lot of them had like a regular frequency, like monthly events and weekly events.
Okay.
So a lot of those I participated in with regular frequency.
Nah, yeah.
So I did kind of have to stay in the South Florida area. But then when COVID hit, a lot of those events were canceled. And I was just like, I'm getting out of Florida. Like, you know, the population. And in the beginning, I took COVID serious. Now I realize it was all a sham. I don't care what you guys think. COVID was barely real. I mean, I do think the disease is real, just to go on record.
No,
I think there's a
understand.
real disease called COVID. I know that people have died from it. It's real. I just think that what they did
The
with it,
information and everything,
how they presented it, how they used it.
Because you were actually outside. Like I was outside too. My job was I was still working around that time, and there was nobody outside. And like when you go on your phone, it looked like the end of the world. But then when you're outside, it's like whoa. Where I lived, there were deer outside every day, birds flying. The sky was clear. It was like whoa. It was different.
Yeah, I mean those were definitely interesting times. I mean everyone could share their COVID story. You don't have to be some artist or whatever to have an interesting story from your life in 2020. We all went through interesting stuff in 2020 and 21 and 22 and whatever. But you know, now we're here 1 week into 2024, and so a lot of that is starting to feel like a distant memory. But I just know that in 2020, when COVID hit, and I was actually in Dallas like the night it hit, because there was a specific night that it hit.
Yeah,
it was March 13th. It was Friday the 13th. And I remember because I had flown to Dallas, I parked my van somewhere and flew to Dallas to participate in a group art show in Dallas with a bunch of other artists. And it was sponsored by Corona, the beer. And so that Friday night, we had this big art show sponsored by Corona.
Yeah.
But that was the night that the news was like, there is a thing called coronavirus all over America. So not a lot of people came to the show. And there was just all this fear and misinformation happening, and nobody knew what was right and wrong. And then I flew back to Florida, and then, you know, I was like, okay, all these events that I regularly participate in, they're all being canceled. But luckily, I don't have like kids. I don't have a wife or even a girlfriend. I don't have pets. It's just me and my van. And so I'm really not scared of COVID. No matter what happens, I can run away. And I know you can't really run away from a pandemic that's covering the whole globe, but at least I can go to wherever I feel is most convenient. You know, I'm not trapped by anything. So I basically left the Miami area and was like, I'm just going to go north. And I spent a bunch of time in Cocoa Beach, which is a beachside community in Florida, like due east of Orlando. And then I went up to Tallahassee. And then I went to South Carolina, and I stayed with a friend in South Carolina for like almost 2 months. And then I got a mural gig in Memphis. So I went straight from South Carolina to Memphis. And then when I was in Memphis, I was like, you know, and I had been around America a bit before that. I had driven all the way to California before, way before COVID. But I'm saying at this point, when I'm in Memphis in 2020, I did, you know, some paid mural jobs, but then I just kind of looked at the map and I was like, oh, St. Louis is only 4 hours north. I've never been to St. Louis and I don't know anything about it. So I'll go. And I went to St. Louis. And then I was like, oh, Chicago is only 4 hours north of here. And I've never been there. So I went to Chicago, and then, you know, and then I just started to really see like how small America is and how easy it is to navigate, and how all these cities are just connected via highways, you know? Like, so that's what I'm saying. if you start at Chicago, you just go from Chicago straight down 4 hours, boom, St. Louis. Straight down 4 hours, boom, Memphis. Straight down 4 hours, New Orleans.
Mhm.
So that's middle America. Literally, that is the middle of America.
And right on top, right above Chicago, is Canada.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. That's
and then
crazy,
you see how close Chicago is to Detroit and all this stuff. And then you just kind of realize, like, okay, so this is America. This is the real America, you know. And like I said before that, as a kid and as a teenager, my whole vision of the world was just New York and Florida. New York and Florida. I mean, I also, to backtrack quite a bit, between my junior and senior year of college, I did an internship with Walmart at their world headquarters, which was in Arkansas.
Okay.
So I spent the whole summer of '99 living in Arkansas and waking up at like 4:30 in the morning and going to work, because Walmart employees, they're up at the crack of dawn.
Yeah.
Like Walmart, their corporate office, I'm not talking about one of their stores,
No,
their
yeah.
corporate office, they're all descendants of the Walton family, which is hardworking farm people, you know? And so they would wake up and go to Bible study and then go to work, you know? And like that was the work ethic and the lifestyle. But yeah, so anyways, so that's what I'm saying. My whole life before that was just New York, Florida, Florida, and then little dose of Arkansas.
Okay.
And then fast forward, you know, living in a car, living in a van, and blah, blah, blah. And now COVID, and I see myself going everywhere. And, you know, and then I spent a while in Los Angeles, and I loved that. Sleeping in my van right on Venice Beach was amazing. And, you know, and then I went back to Memphis a few times. I went back to St. Louis a few times. And then I started coming to New York a lot. And I spent a lot of time in New York in my van, you know, not in this apartment, not in this current lifestyle, but, and then even Jersey too. I mentioned to you earlier, I slept in almost every Walmart in New Jersey. I mean, I'm exaggerating, but I slept in a few different Walmarts, you know, and that's something I learned too from someone somewhere in my travels told me. Yeah. Walmart has like a policy that you're like allowed to sleep in their parking lots. And so once I heard that, that really unlocked a whole new life hack. I was like, oh, okay, so no matter where I am in America, I can just go to Google Maps, type in Walmart, and I could go sleep at Walmart. And so I have slept at a lot of Walmarts all throughout America. And before I discovered that hack, I would park in lots of weird places. Actually, when I lived in my car before the van, and when I was in Florida, what I used to do a lot is I would go to an apartment complex and park in their guest parking.
Yeah, that's smart. No, yeah,
and I did that a while. And then also, since my car was not very comfortable and I had a lot of stuff in it, there was many nights where I would go to an apartment complex, park in the guest parking, and then get out of my car and go over to the pool and lay down on a lounge chair with a towel and sleep on the lounge chair overnight.
Oh, that one's risky. Now.
Yeah, that was risky.
That one is risky. Yeah,
I found myself in some very sticky situations, some borderline, you know.
Yeah, all those states and sleeping in the car. Yeah, was it tinted?
Yeah, one of my vehicles. I mean, I had all different vehicles. They all had some degree of tint. Yeah. And then I would also just like put things in the window and stuff, like hang up a shirt or stick some art in it or whatever. But yeah, it was not without adventure, man. And, you know, I dealt with all kinds of riffraff. A guy broke into my van in L.A. A guy broke into my van in Miami Beach. You know, I've been there, bro. I've been there. The guy that broke into my van in L.A., I caught him in the act.
Were you sleeping? Like, did you?
No, I was not in the van. I had done a mural with a friend of mine, a collaboration mural on a wall, an exterior wall outside of a gym. And we finished the mural, and then we went into the gym and we ordered some food. And then I went out to my car to get my wallet my van to get my wallet, and I couldn't find my wallet. And then some dude just popped out of the van, out of the back of the van, and he had my wallet. And whatever, that's a whole nother story, but
that's a wild story.
So that kind of catches you up to speed, really, in terms of the like chronological story of my life. But current day, I'm an artist, and I like to talk about my art and my murals, and I like to remind people that I'm available. If you want to commission me for a mural or buy some art, you know, my website is RenDaWriter.com. I also have YourComfortZoneWillKillYou.com and LoveIsARisk, DoItAnyway.com. And I'm heavy on Instagram and YouTube. the last like 6-8 months, I've been really trying to push my YouTube. I'm trying to get
You're
to a
doing
point.
good. I was on it. You
Yeah, you saw. So you know.
Speaking of your YouTube, I saw something that kind of sparked my interest. I saw that you were starting a commercial.
Yeah. You know, I guess I didn't really mention this when I was mentioning the whole like chronological layout of my life, but there was definitely a time period where I was into acting also. And so that was around the time that I was doing the poetry and stuff. Because a lot of these poets that I looked up to were also kind of part-time actors. A lot of these Def Poetry Jam,
Like who's
like Saul Williams.
Okay.
Saul Williams was, you know, very much a poet, but he was also an actor. He was in the movie Slam. And then Mums the poet, rest in peace. But Mums was on Def Poetry Jam, and he performed on Def Poetry Jam. He also performed a lot at these smaller venues in New York, but he was also a full-fledged actor. He was on a show on HBO. I think it was Oz, I believe. Do you remember a show called Oz?
No, I believe it was Oz.
And Lord Jamar was on it too.
Yeah. Saigon.
So Mums was in that.
Oh wait, no.
Was Saigon not? I don't know. I never even saw Oz. But I did follow Mums, and I know that Mums was an actor. So I kind of started to see that was like a path too. There was like a lot of overlap between like hip hop, poetry, acting, and all that stuff, you know. And you know, so during that time when I was like meeting poets and rappers and hosting these events and meeting singers and stuff, I met some actors, and then I met and like models and stuff. And then I met someone, I forgot who, but they were like a model, you know, or an aspiring model. And I remember just asking them, like, do you have an agent? And they were like, yeah, holler at Talent Direct Agency.
Okay.
So I hollered at Talent Direct, and I spoke to Bianca, the owner of the agency. And it was a real simple process. Like, it wasn't a scam. They didn't want any money from me. They didn't say, you have to get headshots from this photographer. They just they just said, like, upload your pics, and then we email you every day, and we send you different things that you might be interested in, and then respond back with the ones that you are interested in. So I did a lot of background work and like extra work. And that's how I got that commercial. The commercial was for a car dealership, and it was me and like two other like regular struggling South Florida actors, and Channing Crowder. Is that his name?
Yes.
Channing Crowder. Yes. So he was an ex-Miami Dolphins player.
Yes.
So we were in this commercial together. And then I was also in a commercial with LeBron James. But I was one of like 1,000 people in that.
Because these names, there's people who watching that's like, what?
Yeah.
You were in commercials with who?
Yeah. And you know, it sounds cool. Like in my mind, I'm just like, oh yeah, that was just some bullshit I did years ago.
Were you into sports? So like, did you know who they were at the time?
Nah, I mean, I had heard of LeBron James. Channing Crowder, I did not know at all.
Okay.
I was like, okay, so there's a guy named Channing Crowder. That was
but
even LeBron James was just a name I knew. I didn't really know much about him. But that was a fun day. I remember that day distinctly because that was August 16th of maybe 2013. So that was the time that I was, like I told you, there was a period of time where I had no vehicle and I was crashing on a friend's couch in downtown Miami. Well, that was the day of the death of my vehicle. This was before the 3 vans. I had like a SUV type of car, like an Explorer or whatever you call it. And on August 16th, I was crashing on the couch in downtown Miami, and I had to be in Miami Beach real early in the morning to do this commercial with LeBron James. But my car was acting funny. And I honestly didn't even think that my car would make it from Miami to Miami Beach, which is 3 miles. So instead, I took the bus and I shot the commercial with LeBron James. I came back to my place. The next day was August 17th, which was my birthday. And I got in my car and I was going to drive north to go to this storage unit I had in Fort Lauderdale. And halfway between Miami and Fort Lauderdale, my car died, like completely died. And you know what I mean? Like died. Like I called a tow truck and they came and picked it up and gave me like $200 for it. And so that started the chapter of no vehicle at all. And that was on my birthday. I've had a lot of interesting birthdays. A lot of birthdays, either like really good luck or really bad luck. A few years ago, I broke my arm in Michigan on my birthday and spent my birthday in the hospital.
Hey, birthdays was the worst days.
Yeah. Now we ship champagne on birthday. But I hesitate to even say bad luck because I don't really believe in bad luck. I don't really believe in good luck either. These are just things that happened. And these are things that happen every day, but your birthday is a day that you remember.
Yeah.
So that, you know, you're going to have a natural knack to remember how that day went, you know? But yeah, a few years ago, 20, maybe 18 or 19, I was in Michigan. I was participating in a mural festival, and I broke my arm, and I spent the whole day in the hospital. But yeah, anyways, so the acting thing, yeah, you know, so I just enlisted with this agency called Talent Direct.
Yeah.
It was just a way to make some money. A lot of this background work would pay like $100 or $150 for the day, and you would get that in the form of a check like 2 weeks later or a month later, minus taxes.
Yeah.
So it wasn't even that cool. But also, you know, around that time and even before that time, I had a pretty solid group of friends that I had met during the whole open mic era of my life. And they were filmmakers and writers and stuff. And so my good friend John Vanaza, John used to write and direct films. And so he put me in some films as like the star. And so that was actually kind of fun. Paid me nothing, but it was fun to have lines and like be the star and have my name in the credits and stuff. But then all that other stuff I did was just like these little $100 hustles and like background work. Like I was in a Sprite commercial. I was in the Nike commercial with LeBron James. I was in the car dealership commercial with this Dolphins guy and, you know, things like that. But so all that is kind of a cool part of my history, but it doesn't even really play into like my current day too much, you know. But
it can, you never know, man. After you watch this, you never know.
And that's what I was about to say. I said, but, you know, so, but like, it's a skill in my tool belt. You know what I mean? So if somebody said to me like, oh, I like your look, I like your voice, I'd like to put you in a commercial. Have you ever acted before? I would be like, yes, I have. And I'll prove you right. Yeah, I'm sure I could do well. Give me the lines. I can memorize lines. I used to memorize.
Memory, man.
Yeah, I can memorize 4-minute poems. So, you know, if you like my look or my voice, the next step is memorize the lines and be confident in front of the camera. I could do that. I could do that anytime. So I don't want to say that there's anything that I'm not, you know, but there's just things that I don't focus on. So right now I don't really focus on the poetry. I don't focus on the acting. I focus on creating canvas art, doing murals, and continuing with that. And now like the new hat I wear is content creator. Like you have to be a content creator. That's not really something I wanted to be, but if you're an artist and you're trying to sell your art on social media, you are now a content creator. And gone are the days where you can just post a picture of your art and expect that that's going to sell. You can't just post a picture. You got to time lapse the creation of it. You got to shoot a video of you going to the store and buying the canvas. You got to do a voiceover. You got to have the captions pop up. So that's kind of where I am right now today, and that's kind of like a 2024 thing. Is I want to focus on getting better at that, because if I don't, everyone else is going to pass me. You know, I'm not. If I want to keep selling art, I got to sell it like as a content creator.
You have to sell yourself.
Yeah. So, and I'm no stranger to selling myself, but nowadays this is just the new way to do it. You know, you have to be good at video editing. You have to have all these different apps on your phone. You have to engage. You know, if people comment on your stuff, you have to comment back and say thank you to everyone that says I like your art. You know. And I'll admit, sometimes it feels weird and pointless, but there is a point to it, you know? There is a point. And this is the new paradigm. This is the new world we live in. You know, this is not 2013, you know, it's a whole new world. So I'm cool with it. You know, I'm definitely not hating. I'm adjusting. You know, I'm cool. I don't hate it at all. I'm just learning. And, you know, I'm also learning to like enlist help from others that are more savvy with this kind of thing. You know, I have a few friends that I like FaceTime and they school me on things, you know.
Well, you got a new one then. I'll definitely send you some stuff, man.
Yeah, man.
Because I feel like you definitely have the mindset. It's just you might not know everything about this you know.
Yeah.
Even me, I don't even. This kid's younger than me that know like.
Yeah.
They are way tech savvy. Remember back in the day when there would be somebody older and they'd be like, "Oh, can you do this for me? Can you?"
Yeah.
That's me now.
And yeah, it's same with me. Now I'm this age. I'm 45. You know, and I don't like.
You don't look it.
Thank you. But you know, this is the age I'm at, and I do realize, yeah, a lot of the younger kids that grew up with this kind of stuff, that's who I seek advice from. You know, there's a lot of value in hanging out with people outside of your.
And I'm glad you're not afraid. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but you are not afraid to learn.
Yeah. Sometimes I am, but I fight through it. You know, I realize how important learning is. You got to learn. You got to grow. You got to be outside of your comfort zone. You know, so if I wasn't,
you have to be outside
because your comfort zone will kill you. So if I was not stepping out of my own comfort zone, then I'd be quite the contradiction. You know,
Exactly. No,
quite
yeah,
the hypocrite. But I am quite the human. So sometimes I am in my comfort zone. Like
That's
I will
real.
admit, sometimes I'm very much in my
that's
comfort
real.
zone.
And
But
accountability is important because you got to be
Yeah.
able to check yourself. Man, I like
Right.
that.
Check yourself, exactly. And so I do often, you know, I can admit when I'm in my comfort zone, you know, I'm just a human. So I go through phases, you know, just like there's 4 seasons in a year, like we all go through phases. And so I have phases where I'm super productive, super creative, phases where I'm not so happy, you know. I just have all kinds of phases, but it all adds up and it all makes me who I am, you know. And at the end of the day, I do like who I am, even though I might have phases where I hate myself, like for real. Like I'm like, I hate myself. I don't really like myself at all right now. I don't like what I'm doing. I don't like how I'm acting towards people or treating people or whatever. But I get over that. It's okay to feel that way. I take accountability.
What do you do in those? When you feel like that?
All different things, man. You know, going for a walk is big. I like walking. I like any kind of movement. You know, just moving. I like walking. I also like more passive movement. I love being on the train.
Okay.
I love being on planes. I love being on trains and planes and buses. You know, I really love just moving. I love exploring. Sometimes just sleeping, taking naps. You know, sometimes smoking weed. Sometimes that can make it worse, though. You know what I mean? So there's all different things. But of course, my favorite thing to do is make art. You know, so that's why, you know, art serves all kinds of purposes. Like it's what I do to make a living, but it's also what I do as therapy. And it's also what I do to just pass time. It's also what I do sometimes to garner attention. You know, I'll go to a bar or a restaurant or a coffee shop and I'll sit there and make art. And I'm like, okay, I'm making art because this is what I do. I'm an artist. And I'm making this piece of art because when it's done, I want to sell it. But also, I'm very aware that I'm in a public place. So if somebody sees me making art, they're probably going to come over to me and want to talk. And then I'm going to gain an Instagram follower, or I'm going to gain a friend, or they're going to buy this piece or whatever. So I don't know if it's because I'm a Leo or what. I don't want to get too astrological, but I am a Leo, and I think I do have a lot of Leo qualities. And so one thing that I like is attention, you know, and that's real talk. I like attention. So when I get attention, that helps, you know. If I'm down, sometimes that attention can pick me up. If I'm up, that attention could just bring me further up, you know. But also it's like I just see it as necessary. Like not only do I maybe crave it because of my astrological placement or whatever, but I literally need it. If I'm not getting attention, then people are not seeing my art. You know, you can't buy my art if you don't know about it. You can't buy art from me if you don't know me. So the attention is the bloodline, you know. If people know who I am in real life, social media, whatever, then they're one step closer to buying art from me, you know.
And that's important you said that because there's a difference between liking attention and being thirsty for attention.
Yeah.
Like you're not thirsty for attention, but you like attention. And
yeah, I just
real,
like
man.
it. I like it. I see its necessity.
You see the value in it.
I'm not super thirsty. Maybe sometimes I am. Sometimes when I'm in a certain mood or something. But
sometimes you have to be in certain, you know, certain ways.
You know, and I like helping other people get attention. Like, let's not forget about all those years that I was hosting these events, and my whole purpose was to expose other artists to people. And I was a true host. I would be on the stage being like, okay, everybody, make sure you get a drink. Make sure you tip your bartender. Coming up next to the mic, we have a very interesting young man. Okay. He plays didgeridoo. He sings. He beatboxes. He raps. His name is Xavier Hawk. I think you're going to love him. Give it up for Xavier Hawk. You know, and I would give like these proper intros, and I just really enjoyed helping other people. So I might not be a host anymore, but I still have a streak in me that like really likes promoting others. I still am very much about connecting people with other people. And so I do that all the time, like on Instagram or some on Facebook. I'll see someone post, yo, I need a photographer. I'll jump in the comments and tag like 5 photographers that I know, you know, and I'll spend 5 minutes of my time just like, I hope you guys connect. I get nothing out of this, but I hope you guys connect. And I've always been that kind of person. In fact, I turned that into like a funny saying, but a lot of times
What's the saying?
the saying is tell them you're a friend of Renda. You know what I mean? So I'll tell someone like, hit this person up, tell them that you're a DJ, and tell them that you're a friend of Renda. Or I'll say, tell them you're in the friend of Renda network.
I like that. The
You
friend
know?
of network. I like that. I like
And
that.
I spell it like friend hyphen a hyphen Renda. So it reads like friend of Renda. And I've been saying and doing that for 15 years. And as recently as this morning, a guy that I know in Atlanta, and I've spent a lot of time in Atlanta too. That's another one of these key cities that I went back to 4 or 5 times and did tons of murals there. But I have a friend, Rasta, in Atlanta, and he hit me up and was like, I'm going to be doing some events in Miami. You know any artists? And I sent him like 15 artists. And then he wrote back. He's like, so should I tell them all I'm a friend of Renda? I was like, yeah, bro, tell every one of them that you're part of the friend of Renda network, because they are too. You know?
Not everyone. Everyone do not. This is only for specific people. Because next thing you know, everybody, I'm a friend of Renda. I'm a friend of Renda.
Well, in a way, you all are a friend of Renda's. We just haven't connected yet.
No, that's real. That's real.
You know, if you're an artist with good intentions, or you're just
exactly with good intentions, not just don't just say
good intentions and good energy. Like that's what I'm about. But yeah, on the topic of Atlanta, I did a world peace mural. I did 2 world peace murals in Atlanta. I did a George Floyd mural. You know, shortly after he was killed, I was driving. I forgot exactly where I was, but I was somewhere in America, and I was driving south, and I was about to go through Atlanta. And this was, you know, within a week of his murder. And I just was like, I got to do a George Floyd tribute mural. And so I just kind of posted on every social media thing, like, does anyone got a wall for me in Atlanta? And sure enough, it materialized, you know, law of attraction. I put it out and it came back. And this guy named Terry Skywalker in Atlanta hit me up, and he's like a big promoter in Atlanta. Everyone in Atlanta knows Terry. And then he got me a wall, and I did this huge George Floyd mural, and it was covered by the news. The Associated Press came out, which is like the mother organization that feeds news to all the news outlets. So the Associated Press came out, they covered it. Fox News came out, they covered it. I was on the regular television news. I was covered on all sorts of websites and print media, and that mural is still there, and it should be forever. I mean, murals come and go, and I'm so used to that. But if it's a tribute to a person that died and that changed, like that is now a figure in American history, yeah. So that George Floyd mural is still there. But I mentioned the world peace murals too, and I guess that's something I haven't really gone into depth about in this interview yet. But in 2016, I started the World Peace Mural Tour. And so what that is pretty self-explanatory. It's just my goal of creating murals all over the world that just say world peace over and over and over. So I write world peace over and over in usually 2 or 3 colors. I alternate the colors, and I've done almost 90 of them from 2016 to present day. And my most recent one I did in Brooklyn, right up the street from where I live on Bedford Avenue. It's still there. I did it like 5 nights ago. And I've done almost 90. Usually I say the exact amount, but I sort of lost track, but it's either 86 or 87.
Yeah.
I need to update the website, and I need to look back at my pictures and remind myself of what number I'm on. But I think I'm on 87 or 88. So I'm just saying almost 90.
And do you remember the first, do you remember, because you go with dates. Do you remember the date when you did the first mural?
Yeah, I think so. And if I'm making it up, you guys won't know. But yeah, it was, I believe it was like April 23rd, 2016.
We might have to make that a national holiday.
Yeah.
You know?
But worldpeacemuraltour.com, although it's not super updated, it definitely has the info on the first. Okay. It has a list of all the murals I've done and the date that I did them all.
Okay.
So if you look at that list and you look at mural number 1, I'm pretty sure it's April 23rd, 2016. I know it was 2016. I know it was April 23rd. I don't know. But I did that at a school in Miami. But to give you the real quick background on the World Peace Mural Tour, during all those years that I was hosting all these events and I was constantly in circles with poets, I met a woman named Kathleen Ford, shout out, but she had a tattoo that said poet, just like me.
That's crazy. And
so she came out to my open mics and she performed as a poet in like 2008, 9, 10, whatever. Then we sort of lost touch for a bit. Then we got back in touch around 2015 or so. And she was telling me how she was like a personal assistant to a very rich, retired civil action attorney. So this guy, his name was Mel Weiss, and he was in his 80s and he was retired, but he still practiced law like for fun, I guess. And he just had tons of money. And he was really into art. He was just a patron of the arts. So he bought all these expensive sculptures, and his house was filled with sculptures and art. And he was just like this rich retired lawyer that loved art. And so Kathleen told me one day, she's like, Mel is like really into supporting the arts. And I just want to let you know that, like, if you have any kind of an idea that you would like him to fund, type it up and I'll give it to him. So I was like, okay, cool. So what am I going to come up with? And so this is just like proof of how timing works in the universe. Like, if you are putting out good energy and you're connecting with people in a good way, and you aspire to do big things, and you're keeping your energy and your chi clean, everything will click. So here I am with a desire to travel. At this point in 2016, like I said, I did my first mural at the end of 2014. And I did a bunch of murals in 2015, but most of them were in Florida. But now 2016, I'm like, okay, I've always wanted to travel and remind myself that there's more to life than New York and Florida. And now I've done murals for about a year, but they're all in Florida. I want to travel. How do I travel, and how do I convince people in other states that I should do a mural for them? What would be the concept? What would I write? So I had this desire to think of a concept that would take me around the world. Now I have Kathleen telling me that there's a person that would be willing to fund me. And then one day I woke up. Now remember my hip hop roots. So one day I woke up, and every day I wake up with a song in my head. And I have no control over what song it is.
It's like that.
But is it like that for you?
Yeah, and it's like I can't, random songs just pop up, and it's like I can't really function until I hear that song. It's like I have to play it. I get you.
So one day I woke up with the song World Peace in my head by KRS-One. Technically it's by BDP, Boogie Down Productions. So KRS-One's group was called BDP, and they released a song called World Peace in like 88 or 89. It wasn't even a huge hit. It was just a song on their album. But in 2016, I woke up with World Peace in my head, and then it all clicked. I was like, World Peace, that's it. I'll do murals that say World Peace. And what I'll do is I'll type up like a business plan to give to Kathleen, to give to Mel. And that plan will be me asking for $5,000 to do 5 World Peace murals in 5 major American cities. And so I gave it to Kathleen, and she's like, $5,000, that's it? She's like, you don't understand how rich Mel is. So then I think I bumped it up to like 7,500. I still was not getting her point. But I bumped it up to maybe 7,500. He cut me a check, no problem. And then I was so thrifty that I ended up doing 15 murals with his money instead of 5. And then after I did 15 murals, I was like, okay, the project doesn't have to end here. His money has ran out, but I'm not done. I want to do more murals. And that's when I just kind of tweaked the statement of the project to say the World Peace Mural Tour is a project that I will do for the rest of my life. And so now, 8 years later, I'm still doing it, and I will do it for the rest of my life. I'll be 75 years old up on a ladder writing World Peace, But so after his money ran out, then I used some of my own money, and then I did a GoFundMe, and I funded another 10 or so murals with GoFundMe. And I just have always been doing these murals that say World Peace, and occasionally I'll create a World Peace. I'll create a GoFundMe to fund a certain mural or a collection. I did a bunch of murals in Europe, and that was all through GoFundMe. I did one in New Jersey on World Peace Day, and that was through GoFundMe. And so, yeah, I mean, the World Peace Mural Tour is just another thing I got to mention because it's another big part of who I am. Yeah. So worldpeacemuraltour.com, World Peace Mural Tour on Instagram. So, I'm just always doing words. Like, a lot of times people say to me, like, so your art is all about positivity, or they'll say your art is all about love. And like, that's not really wrong. That's correct. But the way I describe my art is all about words and the power of words, and how words are like a vehicle for conveying a certain energy and a vibration. So if that vibration is the vibration of world peace or the word love or a bunch of names of rappers, that's what my art is about. It's about words, and it's about reminding people that we write things into existence. So whatever you write is going to be like that tool that the law of attraction will latch onto, and it will bring you those things that you're writing about. So it's just like the core message of all my art, which includes my poetry, is just the power of words. So the words that you speak, the words that you write, the words that you think, that's how your life is being created. It's the life around you is all coming as a result of your words, because your words are a reflection of your energy, and your energy and your feelings will bring you what you deserve. It deserve in the sense of like the way the universe sees it. The universe just sees it like, okay, the universe doesn't see good or bad at all. It just sees like, okay, you said this, I'm bringing it to you. So be careful what you say. Don't sit around worrying. Don't sit around talking about the worst case scenario. You will attract the worst case scenario if that's what you're talking about. And so that's why I latched on to certain smart people that I discovered on YouTube.
Yeah.
And so that's why I feel like I got to mention them in an interview setting.
Yeah, go ahead.
But like Abraham Hicks, Earl Nightingale, Wayne Dyer, Deepak Chopra, Neville Goddard, Jim Rohn. These are people that discuss these kinds of ideas. Even Tony Robbins, even Gary Vee, if we're really stepping into like the hyper present. But Gary Vee's focus is not so much on the words or the energy.
Yeah.
His is more like just in your face business and motivation. But I'm just saying that all these people, and everyone, you know, look them up, but like Earl Nightingale is from like the 40s. You know, if you look him up, you'll see this black and white footage of this guy that looks like he's from the 40s. But what he's speaking is timeless. Napoleon Hill, another one who wrote the book Think and Grow Rich. These concepts transcend time. You know, ever since the beginning of time, there has been the word. In fact, in the beginning was the word. You know what I mean? Like that's what it is, bro. So, you know, these are like the secrets of the universe. The secrets of the universe are embedded in the words that we use, in the words that we speak or write or just plain think. And, you know, so that's really the core message in my art. But it's interesting. I guess I'll tell you one short story that kind of exemplifies that. And I wasn't even really aware of it. But back in 2000, I want to say around 2006. So this was when you know, I've already told you and the viewers my whole history. But so there was that time that I was living in New York. I worked at the record labels. I got into poetry. I promoted comedy clubs, right? And then I moved to Florida, and then I started hosting all these open mics, and then I was putting out more CDs. So I put out a CD that had a lot more production value than any of those crappy CDs I put out in New York in my bedroom with Cakewalk and the Radio Shack mic. So when I was in Florida, I started going to a studio and recording. And I pressed up a CD with disc makers. You remember disc makers, right? So I had a thick jewel case with an insert and all that. And I pressed up 1,000 CDs, you know, and I paid like $2,500 for it. Anyway, so I just remember distinctly when I had moved back to Florida, I was just crashing with a friend. And I remember he was at work one day and I was just sitting at the kitchen table and I pulled out a notebook and I was ready to write some poetry or some abstract thought like I usually did. But I decided to challenge myself and give myself like an assignment. So I was like, you know, I'm not going to just sit and write some stream of consciousness stuff. I'm not going to just write some rhyming words or some pseudo rap lyrics. What I'm going to do is I'm going to like envision a scenario and I'm going to write as if that scenario is taking place right now. So what I did was I'm sitting at the kitchen table in Boca Raton. And what I wrote was, I am in Key West, which I was not. But I wrote, I am in Key West. I am on the street selling my CDs. And I just sold 20 CDs to people on the street. I'm in a good mood because I sold these CDs, whatever. And I went on and I described this scenario that was not even real. But then fast forward a few months after that, I went to Key West
Yeah.
and I started selling my CDs on the street, and I sold 20 CDs.
Manifestation.
And so, yeah, that was like my first lesson in that. So, there a lot of these names, these people I was talking about, Neville Goddard especially, and my girlfriend is a big fan of Neville Goddard too. So, obviously I choose my partner, to match my own philosophies. So my girlfriend is very into Neville Goddard. And so she's always talking about him. And he always talks about this idea of stepping into the feeling of the wish fulfilled. So it's like what you do is right now, you just start feeling the way you will feel when you achieve the thing you're looking to achieve. So that's what I did with that little like journal entry of saying I'm in Key West and I just sold my CDs. Yeah. So that's the key. Like it might sound like silly or funny,
it's real.
But yeah, like if you're serious about your life and if you want to just test out this idea, go ahead. Sit down and write and say, I just met the most beautiful girl in the world and we started dating and now we're married. You could write that while you're single and then watch as that girl shows up. Or you could say, I just had a job interview and it went really well and it's my dream job. You can write that and then watch as it happens. So like, it's just interesting. I think over time, human beings have been really, over time, and especially the last 20, 30, 40 years, we've really lost touch with our power and we've been totally disconnected because we've been too distracted ever since the invention of the television, really. It's the television, it's the telephone, it's the cell phone, it's the internet, it's social media. It's this whole progression of things that are very useful, but they also kind of disconnect you from like your power as like a god. Like we are gods. We can create, we can actualize things, we can do whatever it is we want. Like we literally have superpowers. But if you're not ever spending any time alone,
and tapping into those powers,
then you're not gonna know that. So you gotta like spend some time alone. You gotta like meditate. You gotta think. You gotta focus on your breath. You gotta write. You gotta do these things. And when you do them, you'll discover your power. Like that's why another thing that I should mention is like, so I grew up on hip hop. And I grew up in like all this 80s and 90s stuff. But one thing that really influenced me was people like Brand Nubian and like the 5% Nation.
Me too, yeah.
These are people that talked about how we are God, and that stuck with me. Poor Righteous Teachers, Brand Nubian, Grand Poobah, X-Clan, big time, and so it's like, I'm listening to them as a kid and I'm like memorizing their lyrics and I'm getting it. But then fast forward, as an adult, I'm listening to their music again and I'm going back and I'm like, wow.
And it hits you different because you can feel the lyrics now. You can actually feel it. Like, no, I get that.
And then KRS-One too. Like KRS-One doesn't have that 5% affiliation, but he definitely has that.
Teaching.
Yeah, he's the teacher, and
that's right.
He calls himself a metaphysician, and on every album, every early KRS-One or BDP album, he was talking about how he's a metaphysician. So that made me look into it. Like, what is a metaphysician? Okay, what is metaphysics? Okay, metaphysics is this stuff that Neville Goddard is talking about and Earl Nightingale. Meta means above and beyond. It's the physics beyond the physical. It's the metaphysics. It's the physical side of the non-physical. It's how you make real things that are not real. It's manifesting, creating, attracting. That's what it is. And that's my shit. Like, that's what I'm into. So again, it goes back to hip hop. Hip hop is what got me into this, And so that's why I love life. Like, that's why I'm a happy person. That's why I do art for a living, why I live in a nice place, and why.
And that's why you have all these full circle moments.
Because when you're tapped in, you will discover life is nothing but full circle moments, and all that serendipity is normal. A lot of times people will say to me like, isn't that weird that we ran into that person and then that happened? And I'm like, no, that's not weird at all. What would be weird is if we didn't notice it. That is weird. But the things that we often label as weird or coincidental are the actual truth. Like, that is how life really is. It feels weird because we don't experience it a lot.
And because we don't understand it.
Like you don't experience it a lot because you're not really focused on attracting it or recognizing it when it's right there in front of you. But if you could train yourself to tap in and notice it, then I guarantee you'll notice it every single day. And that's real talk. Like one of my sayings is serendipity daily, So that's how I feel, is like it's serendipity daily. Every day I should notice something at least mildly serendipitous or synchronicitous, kismet situations, so-called coincidences. You think about someone and they call and blah, blah.
Yeah.
It's because you're tapped into the energy, bro. Like it's going to happen. But if you're just distracting yourself and entertaining yourself all the time, or if you're just chalking things up to good luck, and things like that, then you're not getting
giving it to someone else. You
attribute it to other stuff. Oh, that was a coincidence, or that was good luck, or I don't deserve this, things like that. Yeah. It's like, bro, you deserve everything. You deserve the bad things that you attract. And also what you deserve is the understanding that there is no good or bad. It just is. The universe really does not care about good or bad. And I know that might sound weird. Even the most extreme example, let's take something as extreme as like murder. Okay, I'll admit, from my perception, murder is bad. And most people would agree. But the universe doesn't see it that way. Yeah. For real. Like the universe has an infinite supply of human beings and animals and life forms. And they just come and go. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? It's not...
The natural behaviors.
It's just...
Human behaviors.
And energy can't be created or destroyed. So the energy that is within a certain body, if you kill that person, that is tragic. That is bad in our terms. But the universe just takes that energy and recycles it somewhere else. You know what I mean? Yeah. So they're really, on the biggest scale, there is absolutely no good or bad. There is no judgment. Everything just is. And so if you want to be on that level or even a level or two below it, you'll achieve great things because you'll be so tapped in and so disattached and attached at the same time that you will just attract everything you need, want, and deserve. And that's what I'm saying. That's why I'm an artist. That's why I'm a hip hop head, because art and hip hop and my life in general have led me to a point where I like to have discussions like this. A lot of times people that are really into art and understand that art is a vehicle for opening up conversation, And so these are the kinds of conversations that I hope my art evokes, And there's been a lot of times where I have been at events and people have looked at my art and then they say, "Do you listen to Abraham Hicks?" And I'll be like, "Yes, I do." And I'm like, "What makes you ask?" And they're like, "I don't know, something about your art makes me think that." And I'm like, "Well, that's cool. That's exactly what I want. If you can look at my art and you can gather what my influences are, then cool, my influences are shining through in my art." And so have you heard of Abraham Hicks? No? So, and maybe some of you haven't either, but Abraham Hicks, there's a woman, an actual human being woman named Esther Hicks. And Esther Hicks is a channeler, a medium. So what she does is she channels energy from infinity, from infinite universal consciousness. And that energy that she channels and brings into her vessel, she speaks from that point of view. And when she does that, she calls that Abraham. That's just her way of assigning a name to the energy that she's channeling. So she calls that Abraham. Yeah. So when she is channeling, she is Abraham Hicks. So if you go to YouTube and you type in Abraham Hicks, you'll see this footage of a woman speaking. But when she's speaking, you'll notice that she says the word we a lot. She doesn't say I, she says we, because she's using the word we to reflect the fact that she is speaking on behalf of this infinite intelligence, or if you will, God. In a sense,
Yeah.
And that's why God is a funny word, because God is just this word that we use for the sake of simplicity, and I prefer things like the universe or infinite intelligence. But I will use the word God here and there because it's a commonly accepted word and it's quicker to say,
Something that is universal for everybody to understand. No,
Yeah.
I get that.
And so I like to use the word God. And I guess if you ask me, do you believe in God?
Mhm.
I would say yes. But I don't believe in God the
The
way a lot of people think.
I understand.
I just think God, that word God, represents the summation of all things, all energy, all things past, present, future, all things on earth and beyond. All of that stuff is the universe, aka God. And it is as much out there as it is in here. And we are gods. Again, going back to like that 5% nation teaching, we are gods because the 5%ers talk about build and destroy.
Mhm.
And that's the mark of a god. A god can build or destroy. And so can we. If I make myself scrambled eggs, what did I do? I just created something with energy. Then I eat it and put that energy in me. So I just built, if I step on an anthill
You
and
destroyed and you built because you got to crack the egg. You know
that
what I
too.
mean?
Yeah. So there's this whole relationship. Yeah. You have to crack the egg, but then you cook
destroy
it, it transfers energy. It's in a new form. If I step on an anthill and I kill 100 ants, I have destroyed. But there's like this constant interplay between build and destroy, and there's these constant reminders that you are God. If whatever it is, and so if I make a piece of art, that is a creation. So I am a creator, just like people call God the creator. So maybe he is the creator, but we are all creators. We are all gods. We are all playing our role in terms of our placement in the universe, being of the universe, and being the universe itself. Just like I think it was Rumi, I'm not really sure, but Rumi was a poet who I often quote and who a lot of these people quote.
Yeah.
But maybe it was Rumi, maybe it was someone else who talks about like, and I'm going to butcher it because I don't really know it exactly, but it's something to the extent of like the ocean is a bunch of drops, but the entire ocean is also in one drop. You know what I mean? So you take one drop of water, that literally is the whole ocean. It's the same, it has the same components,
Just smaller.
Yeah.
Smaller ocean.
And so everything has this like microcosm, macrocosm relationship.
Yep.
Just like every cell in your body is alive. So
you ever seen Osmosis Jones?
No, what's that?
All right, so it's like it was a movie basically about like I guess a germ, and his right hand man is a pill, and the whole movie they're inside of a human body, and then you actually see like how you saying it's broken down into smaller cells, and it's a good movie. It's a good movie.
I gotta check that out. I think I might have heard of it.
Osmosis Jones.
But yeah, man, there's just like infinite examples like that. Like everything is like a small thing and a big thing, and then they're both kind of related, and then when you see how related they are, you realize that there isn't even small and big. Everything is one. Everything is one. We're all connected. If you could see things as they really are, you would see just how connected we really are. And art and music and things like that teach us that, and math too. Like look at how much math is in nature, how much sacred geometry. Art, you ever go deep on the turtle shell? Like Google that. Like there's a whole thing about the patterns on a turtle shell, and like that's where we got our calendar from. It's something like every turtle has like 13 spots on it, and then it goes so deep. I can't quote it exactly, but the real calendar is 13 months that are exactly 28 days. But instead we have this screwy calendar that has a leap year to like accommodate it and stuff. But there's just so much sacred mathematics embedded in the world. And that's something that the Nation of Islam and the 5% Nation have talked about. Yeah. You listen to Busta Rhymes, not so much in his music, but in his interviews. A lot of his music is like party stuff, but it's...
Well, the albums, the titles of the albums, he definitely...
Yeah.
He expressed it in a lot of music.
Yeah, he's got that at the core, but he's also an entertainer, so he knows that he's making music to make people dance and have a good time, and he's trying to sell records, and he's good at that. But as a person, he's a 5%er. He knows what's up. He knows about the sacred math of life, the science of life.
Supreme mathematics,
Yeah, supreme mathematics. When they say, what's today's math? A lot of people think that's just some like thing to say, yo, peace God, what's today's math? That's not just something you say. Today's math means if today is the 13th, you take the 1 and the 3, what they correspond, and that's the math of today, meaning that's today's lesson.
Mm-hmm.
That's the lesson. So today is wisdom, understanding. So, or whatever it may be. So then you say, all right, so today I will meditate on wisdom and understanding.
That's really
and that's today's math.
Yeah.
And that's why some of my favorite hip hop is stuff like that. I like Jay Electronica.
Yeah, he's one of those that brought it back.
Big time, man. Big time. But then I also like just regular rap, I like Eminem a lot. I like his personal.
Did you ever get anything to Eminem?
No, but that's why I mentioned his name just out of nowhere right now, because I do want to mention that, I have to, anytime I'm in front of the camera, I do have to mention that this art right here, I have given it to 187 rappers, but I want to give it to Eminem. And the reason, there's a few reasons. Number one is just he's a rapper. So his name is on here. And so like everybody else, my goal is to give this to the rappers that are on there because it's my way of showing them gratitude. I'm just giving them a gift. Oh, yeah. So I want to give this gift to Eminem for that reason. Now, the other reasons that are on top of that is mainly this. Eminem is not just a rapper and he's not just one of the best, but he's such a fan himself. He really puts out there that he's a fan of the music and the culture and that he's like a fan first.
It showed.
And one of the ways in which he really expresses that is when he was inducted in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. He got up there to give his acceptance speech and he said, I have a list of people I want to thank.
Yeah.
And then he just rattled off this long list of rappers. Do you remember? Did you see that?
Yeah.
So you know what I'm talking about? And so he said like Awesome 2, Audio 2, Beastie Boys. And he just went in alphabetical order and he named like 100 rappers. And when I saw that, I'm like, oh, dude, the way this guy is talking, it's like he's reading my art. So I know he would appreciate it, just like these other rappers have appreciated receiving this gift. So that's why I set a goal that I'm going to give him the art. And I will, like I'm getting close.
You definitely will, because you gave it to a lot of his favorites, a lot of people that was on that list that you just said. So,
yes, exactly.
Do you know if he saw it at least?
I don't know for sure what he has seen or hasn't seen, but I wouldn't be surprised if it somehow came across his field of vision. I've given the art to 50 Cent, who Eminem signed to Shady Records and helped blow him up. I've also given it to Busta Rhymes, who he did a song with. I've given it to Snoop Dogg, who he did a song with, and who's like another like Dre protege.
Yeah. Dre protege. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but Dre protege, because I saw Dr. Dre's name. Did you give it to Dr.
I haven't given it to Dr. Dre yet.
So that's two people.
Yeah.
Oh,
there's a lot. I still want to get it to Fat Joe, Dr. Dre.
You haven't done Fat Joe? Fat Joe is Fat. Oh no,
he's outside. He should be easy to get. Yeah. I want to get it to RZA. Wu-Tang wise, I've given the art to Ghostface, Raekwon, Method Man, Inspector Deck, but not yet Jizza, not yet RZA, not yet Master Killer.
And you have a Wu-Tang, not mural, but you have a Wu-Tang poster. Like you did, like how you did the names. You have something Wu-Tang like that.
Yeah, I have a few like Wu-Tang themed
Wu-Tang ain't nothing to F with. I remember now.
I've done a few canvases that say Wu-Tang Clan ain't nothing to F with and stuff like that. So yeah, Wu-Tang has been an influence on me. But as far as the Eminem thing, yeah, it's just a goal. I just really want to get him the art. I want to give it to him for free, give him a print, but I also want to see if he wants to buy the original, because the original is an original piece of art. His name is in it. That piece of art now has a huge storied history behind it, and he has the money, So, and he has a big house, so I'm sure he has room on his walls to display lots of art. But we should close this up. But let me real quick show the camera this. So we've been talking about how I keep right. So that's Biz Markie's wife. I couldn't give it to Biz Markie because he passed away, but I gave the art to Biz Markie's wife. There's Big Daddy Kane, Killer Mike from Run the Jewels and from his own solo career. Mad Skills, Princess Superstar. A lot of people might not know who she is, but I do. I'm a huge hip hop head, and so that's part of the mission here. I want to educate you. If you don't know Princess Superstar, look her up. She's good. You'll like her. You might not know the Arsonist, but that's Kinetic from the Arsonist. Action Bronson. A lot of people know him. He's, a lot more contemporary. Cannabis, one of my favorites. When he came out, he blew my mind. Recognized from Mayday, they're from Miami. Positive K, you know, another one that people might not know, but look them up. Company Flow, that's another underground New York group, but that's Mr. Len. David Banner, a lot of people know David Banner. That's at his studio in Atlanta. You can see his face right there.
Yeah.
So David Banner, big time. DJ Premier, that's not a good picture, but that is DJ Premier from Gangstar. The Legion, if you don't know the Legion, look them up. They're from the Bronx. That's all 3 members of the Legion. And all 3 members of the Legion bought the art from me. No, they did not want it for free. All 3 of these guys hit me up and said, how much for that piece? I just got to mention that because these are 3 really stand-up dudes. Everybody else was like expecting it for free or whatever, or wanted 2 copies. These guys were just like, how much? And then they paid me. Who's that? Oh, Pace, one of the Outsiders, and Young Z.
Yeah, Jersey.
I love these guys.
What?
I love
we didn't
these
get
guys.
to Lyrics' Lounge and that. So yeah, no, that might be another way Eminem might see this, man, because he was inspired. He was there too. He was at Lyrics' Lounge. Yeah.
And actually, like, he came up with the Outsiders. He spent some time in Jersey before he got signed with Dr. Dre, before the Rap Olympics. He was in Jersey. He was performing with these guys. He was basically a member of the Outsiders.
Yeah.
And actually, if you listen to Young Z, Eminem got his style from Young Z. Eminem's early style, because Eminem is
from Jersey. Period. Him, Tretch. Like he always mentions them as like his
100%.
favorite.
And Eminem has evolved. There's so many different Eminems that have been. But the very early Eminem was just like Young Z. Just like Young Z and just like Pace One. And I love these guys. And I met both of them. This was at Young Z's house. This was in his living room. That was at Pace One's house. DMC from Run DMC. I mean, Jesse West, you might not know him, but he also goes by Third Eye. He did songs with Puff Daddy and Notorious Big. He's done all sorts of production. He produced a whole album with Bumpy Knuckles. Just do your research on Jesse West. Joe Fatal was on Live at the Barbecue with Nas.
He got a
DJ
podcast
Jazzy
too
Joyce.
out right now and is killing it.
Who?
Joe Fatal.
Joe Fatal has a podcast? Okay, I need to look that up. What's it called?
I don't know the exact name of it because I didn't know that was his, but I saw he did the Royal Flush when Royal Flush talked about the situation.
Yeah, he invited me to a Flush fundraiser, but I couldn't go. Or he wanted to know if I could.
Yeah, he was there.
That's cool. DJ Eclipse, who was in the group Nonfiction,
DJ Eclipse,
and is also just his own thing. Dingo D from Leaders of the New School, very nice guy. I mean, I have a casual friendship with him now.
Look up,
Rockness Monster from Helter Skelter. The whole I have almost the whole boot camp clique. Grandmaster Caz, Cold Crush Brothers. This is one of the original MCs. You know, it doesn't get much more hip hop than Grandmaster Caz. Both of the guys from Blase Blase. Some more boot camp representatives. Buckshot from Black Moon. I got all 3 members of Lords of the Underground. That's Mr. Funky. Yep, Jersey. Intelligent Hoodlum, a.k.a. Tragedy. Eric Sermon with his gold records. Graph, you were talking about Graph. That was in Phoenix. Don Pacino from Killer Army, Wu-Tang affiliate. Supernatural, one of the best freestylers ever. Real freestyle.
Supernatural.
Destroy from the Arsonist, who's now a huge name on satellite radio on Shade 45. He's just like a watch out for him. The L.O.R.D. F-I-N-E-double-S-E. Don't play or stress me because that shit don't impress me. Rascas.
Cool.
The Alcoholics, one of my favorite groups.
Alcoholics too.
Granddaddy IU, rest in peace.
Rest in peace, man. Yeah, that was.
Mike Geronimo, super nice guy.
What?
I've met him. I talk to him every once in a while.
Natural.
He told me that he hung up my art on his walls, and he's like, bro, whenever I feel like giving up, I look at your art and it inspires me to keep going.
That's real, man.
Nature,
yeah, that's another big.
Al Scratch, another cool dude. I did some custom art for him. I made some custom T-shirts. Yeah, he's got a bunch of new music out.
Yeah, he's been outside a lot too lately.
Yes. He's like,
he's outside.
He's in Brooklyn.
Big up Al Scratch.
He did a new song with Premier that's insane. He did a song with Large Professor.
Yeah, I was gonna say Large Professor. I heard that one.
Capone, one of the most unique voices in hip hop, I think. Shaheem, all grown up.
Yeah.
Royal Flush, there he is.
Yeah, man. Get well too, Royal Flush,
Yes,
man.
get well, Royal Flush. I gave this to him on his birthday. I wrote "Happy Birthday" on the back. He said to me, he's like, "I feel like I'm gonna cry." I was like, "Let it out,
Good
bro.
dude, man.
Let it
I
out."
love Flush.
And then this is one of my favorites. I don't think he's the GOAT. I think he's the gloat. You know what a gloat
What's the
is?
gloat? Now, what's that? Tell me.
Greatest lyricist of all time.
And because for the people who don't know who that is, please tell them who that is.
Black Thought is the lead man of The Roots, and you can also find him on the Jimmy Fallon Show. And he's also
Speaking of
done.
Black Thought, though, I know that that's one of your favorites, man. So I bought you a gift, man.
Yes. Let's see. What do we got here? Oh, yeah. This is the one with Danger Mouse. Yes. Heck yeah, man. Yeah, I listen to this on Spotify sometimes. I was just listening to the one with Doom yesterday. But yeah, I love how he's doing full albums with producers now. He did a whole album with Salam Remy.
Yeah.
Whole album with...
wait, speaking of Salam, did you get to see Salam in Florida?
I met Salam Remy in Florida, yeah. Real quick, I was just walking down the street. I walked past his gallery. I was kind of drunk, but I said hello to him. I introduced myself, showed him some art.
Man. I love Salam.
Yeah, Conway the Machine is on here. But I love it. He did a whole album with Salam Remy, a whole album with Ninth Wonder, whole album with Danger Mouse.
If you look inside, I mean, I believe it's a CD or DVD. I don't know. I didn't get a chance to put it out. I just had to.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so.
Okay.
When you get a
Thank
chance,
you.
check that out too. No, of course, man.
I will pop this in the whip. Thank you, man.
I know. Like we've been here for a while, man. This has been.
Yeah, this is the extended interview, and that's one book out of 4. Let me just flip through one real quick. Go real quick. I definitely want to end this, but I can't resist. Me and AZ. Wise, intelligent, and culture freedom from Poor Righteous Teachers, Jersey, represent.
Yeah.
Sweet Tea, one of the original female rappers.
Big Queen,
who's that?
Queens.
Oh, Rampage, the Last Boy Scout. Flip Motors, the Squad.
Yep.
Grand Wizard Theodore, who invented the scratch. And that was at the Universal Hip Hop Museum in the South Bronx. DJ Mr. C, who DJ'd for Notorious Big and Big Daddy Kane.
Yep.
Taj from the Youngsters, Philly. Another member of the Arsonists, Jives One. Diamond Shell, Biz Markie's brother. He was signed to Cold Chillin' Records. A lot of people don't know him, but look up Diamond Shell. Def Jeff was one of my personal favorites. Like, he's on my list, my top 5. DJ Hurricane.
Yep, big up DJ Hurricane.
Sauce Money, who wrote...
Yeah, we know Sauce Money, yeah.
Sauce Money is
ill, man.
Yeah.
Brooklyn native too, right? Sauce Money?
Yeah, Marcy.
Yeah, of course.
Yep. He wrote I'll Be Missing You by Puff Daddy.
That's crazy. You know what? You just put me on. I never knew that.
Yeah, he wrote the whole thing. He's the writer of that song.
Oh, shit.
Yep. So he did all right with writing that.
No, definitely.
UTFO. Timbo King. This was here at my house. Timbo King came over. Rich Nice. If you don't know Rich Nice, look him up. He's a producer. He signed 50 Cent to Columbia Records. Before Eminem signed him to Shady, Rich Nice signed him to Columbia. He also signed Chingy. He's produced stuff for Nas and for Mary J. Blige.
I'm going to definitely have to look him up after this.
He had me on his podcast like a week ago, or he did like a live interview with me on Instagram.
Check that out too.
Scorpio from the Furious 5. Donald D. Got some real old school people. Big Noid, down with Mobb Deep.
Mm-hmm.
Melly Mel.
Yeah.
And let me do another quick flip on one more. We do got to end this, but I really can't resist. So we had Melly Mel. We got Marley-Marl. We got Slick Rick the Ruler. Cool Keith. OC. Redman. The Funk Doc.
Jersey.
One of Eminem's favorites.
Yep. Another one of Eminem's favorites.
Yes.
Yeah. Everybody's favorite.
The Cellar Dwellers.
Cellar Dwellers. Big up UG and big up Phantom. Big up UG.
AC Alone from Freestyle Fellowship. Ski from Original Flavor. This guy produced half of Jay-Z's first album.
Yeah.
Reasonable Doubt was produced by him. Rockefeller, Rock-a-Block.
Yep.
Evil D.
DJ Evil D, man. Big up Boot Camp Click.
Slum Village, Obi Trice, 2 Detroit people.
People slept on Obi Trice, man. That was I like
Real Name, No Gimmicks. Another Eminem affiliate.
Mm-hmm.
Neat the Exotic, break backs and necks. When fakes try to funk, they get smoked like blunts. He was on Faking the Funk with Main Source. Sugar Hill Gang, that's Master G. That's at the National Hip Hop Museum in Washington, D.C. Smith & Wesson, Tech of Steel. Super nice guys.
Of course, now
He's an artist now, a visual artist. The Queen. Even with the mask on, you could tell. That's Queen Latifah.
Jersey.
Yep, and more Jersey.
Yeah.
Nikki D. The first female signed to Def Jam Records. Awesome 2. The Dog Pound, Daz and Corrupt. And this was in New York. This was at the screening of the documentary about the DOC, which is where I also met Exhibit, Mr. X to the Z, Busy B, Chubby Chub. He was in Original Flavor with Ski. He's also the tour DJ for 50 Cent. Trigger Tretch. And Vinny. If you got Tretch, you got to get Vinny.
Come on, man. Big
J
up
to the
Ill-Town.
Y. Look at that. J to Kiss. And one of Dead Prez. Dead Prez is one of my favorite
What?
groups.
I love Dead Prez.
Yes.
Man. I love Dead
For me, it's J Electronica, Black Thought, KRS-One, Dead Prez. Those are my guys. MF Doom. METHOD.
Man.
Yep. That was kind of recently. Havoc from Mobb Deep. Pudgy the Fat Bastard. This guy. MC Shan.
Now, big up MC Shan. Love you, Unc. You already know how it go.
Ed. Drez from Black
Special.
Sheep.
Oh.
Those are two
No, of course, man.
big guys right there.
I'm your eyes, the hottest type. He's big on Manifestation. Special Ed. Yeah.
He knows how to write things into existence.
He wrote that song into existence. My bad.
No, he wrote stuff at age 15 that turned him into the man he is now. That whole album he wrote at like 15 years old.
Yeah.
In fact, that's true of a lot of these rappers. They were just kids when they wrote this stuff. Like this guy, Big Boy. Him and Andre, the stuff you hear on their first album, they were writing that when they were 15 years old in the dungeon, 15, 16, writing stuff, like that's true of all of them. Cujo, like Cell Therapy, I'm sure he was maybe 17 at the most when he wrote that, So again, that's why I like hip hop and why I like this metaphysics, you learn it from hip hop. Onyx.
Yo.
Who's that? Pete Nice, from Third Base. And I got MC Search too. And I got the 2 guys from Diggable Planets. And that was the same day. That was on hip hop's birthday at Prospect Park.
Cool like that.
Cool like that. Yes. I still need to get Ladybug Mecca, but
Ladybug, we gotta get you.
Butterfly, man. Yeah, Mecca. Where you at? Mecca, the Ladybug, changing like seasons. Cool G Rap, the cool genius of rap. Yeah, when I was 5 years old, I realized there was a road. At the end, I would win lots of pots of gold. Visualization. That's effects.
Witches and caviar dreams. The team is getting cream.
Yep. Uncle Murda. You know Uncle Murda?
On, man. I love Uncle Murda, man.
Me too. I kind of discovered him late, but I like him. I like him a lot. CL Smooth. The Mecca Don.
The smoothest.
The Chubster. Funk Flex from the BX.
Oh, my God.
Professor Griff. Come on. Styles P. Punchline from Punchline and Wordsworth.
That's crazy. I just interviewed him.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, you sent me that link. He's a cool guy, right?
Man, I love Punch, man.
All right, so we might as well just flip through this one too. Ice-T, the king of the West Coast. Raekwon. Let's stay with the Wu-Tang. Ghostface Killer. There's me and the God MC. Rakim. Maceo from De La Soul. KRS-One. My favorite.
Yeah, man.
I've met him several times.
He has a temple in New Jersey right now, too.
Yes.
Yeah, yep.
Temple in Newark, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Chino XL. I just
Jersey
spoke to
too.
him. Yes.
Yeah.
Originally Jersey, yeah.
Originally, yeah.
East Orange or something, maybe?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah. Shabam Sadiq. Craig G.
Craig G, man. Symphony.
Psycho Les. I got to get Juju.
Ooh,
Kwame. With his gold records behind him. Milk is chilling.
Yo.
Pasta Noose. We have the same birthday, August 17th.
Leos.
The 2 biggest DJs in New York hip hop history.
And Cool and Red Alert.
Yep. That's the man that introduced me to hip hop. That's what I was saying. If it wasn't for him, I would not.
A lot of people.
Yeah.
Then Kid Capri on them tapes, man. His voice is so unique, man.
Yep.
He just did Kendrick album, not just, but he hosted. It's called Damn. You gotta listen to it.
Oh, okay. I know that album, but I hadn't really heard it. Well, that's cool. I gotta look it up.
Check it out, man.
Yeah, Kid Capri. That was in Miami. That was in Miami too. Talib Kweli. Wordsworth, Punchline and Wordsworth.
Yep, punching words.
Got them both. A Large Pro. That was in DC. Master Ace. Another Eminem influence.
Oh, yep, Master Ace, of course, man.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people influence, man. People sleep on Master Ace.
And they did
man.
a song together, too, that wasn't super promoted and then a lot of people don't even know about, but they were on a song together. I never knew.
Was it early days or something new?
No, very early. Long time ago. Google it. But you'll see.
I will as soon as I get home.
Type in Master Ace and Eminem. Curious George. Keith Murray, the vocabulous analyst.
Mm-hmm.
Dilated Peoples. Aguilar, a.k.a. Adolf Aguilar.
Let's go.
Noriega and DJ EFN of the Drink Champs.
One of my favorite shows inspired me, man.
Yeah, that is a good show.
Yeah.
And the other two guys, I showed you Mr. Funky.
Yep.
Now we got DJ Lord Jazz and Do It All. And Do It All.
Which is now the councilman in Newark.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he got me a wall out in Newark. I did a World Peace mural in Newark. That was all because of him.
I got to check that out.
When he became city commissioner, I messaged him. I said, hey, congrats on winning the city commission. And I was like, by the way, I think Newark needs a mural. Let's talk. He called me up. He said, what do you need? I said, I just need a wall. That's all. I'll figure out the budget. I'll figure out the logistics. But if you could get me a wall, let's make it happen. He got me a wall. I did the mural. He came out. Super cool guy. Super cool. M80. I'm sure a lot of people don't know him. He's a rapper, but he's also very much a businessman. He's the businessman behind a lot of rappers. He's like the king of like booking rappers for features on your album. If you want Corrupt or you want Snoop on your album, he'll get them for you. But he raps too. Coach Nim is a Dead Prez protege. A lot of people don't know him, but that's why I'm happy to show him. Coach Nim is someone you should know. Do you know Coach Nim?
What group was he in?
He's not really in a
solo
group. He was down with Dead Prez and still is.
Coach Nim.
But he's really into fitness too.
Oh yeah. Wait, he was in. I do know Coach Nim. Yeah. He was in the hip hop video, right?
Video for hip hop? Maybe. I don't really know.
If I'm not mistaken, I think he was the one.
He probably was. I think he told me that he was. But
yeah, in the exercise scene, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. Oh, he's working out in every video.
Oh, I know. I definitely know who that is. Who that is.
So he's doing push-ups.
Yeah, he did it at the stick event. That's how I know you're talking about. I definitely know who
But I love him, and I've met him. I've hung out with him. He's based in Miami. Super cool guy. Butterverses is another Florida-based rapper from the Bronx, based in Florida. Was signed by Maceo from De La Soul. Super talented. Look up Butterverses. Wyclef, the first rapper I got on here. Wyclef Jean. And Bumpy Nux. I was saying. You know what I mentioned before.
Yeah.
Right? And we got Jerobi from Tribe. That's the only Tribe member I got. Moni Love.
We got to get you Q-Tip.
Yeah, I know. Raw Digger. Flip Mode.
Jersey. Outsiders.
Yep. Nice and smooth as funky.
Smooth, man.
And there's Hakeem. So it's Hakeem and Wyclef. Those are the first two. Dame One, rest in peace.
Yeah.
Jersey. And Ella Sensei.
Yep. Ella Sensei. Jersey 2.
Third base. MC Search. And there's Joe Claire. That was the story I was telling. This is from that day. Lord Tariq. Tariq and Peter Guns. With his gold and platinum records right next to the art.
We get down, baby.
Who's that? Pharaoh Monch. Thurston Howell.
Fuck out.
He did a song with Eminem a long time ago. It's called Watch These. And Eminem was very young at the time. This was way pre-Dr. Dre. It was like a Lyricist Lounge cut.
I'm going to say Lyricist. Yeah. Okay, I know.
Eminem goes, whose arm is this? I must have cut it off of the pharmacist who wouldn't renew my 6th prescription of Darvocet. Yeah. Chi Ali.
Yo, big up Chi Ali too, man.
He's got
a real one. He's a real one.
Yes.
Yeah, big up Chi Ali.
I bought his book off of him. I need to read it, but it's called A Different Kind of Freedom.
I don't know. Yeah,
it's like autobiography.
Okay.
And Guilty Simpson from Detroit. And he's in front of a mural I did, Black Lives Matter in Detroit. And that mural is still there. But yeah, and then there's plenty of others too that I haven't even printed and put in the books yet.
And we didn't even really get to touch on the mural, man. Now this has been awesome, man. Thank you again for the chance. Thank you for being patient with me. You know, today's been a crazy day.
Yeah,
I really appreciate it.
Well worth it, man.
We definitely have to do a part 2.
Yeah, let's do it anytime, man. You can come here, I'll come to you. I mean, I talk. You know?
Oh, before we go though, anything you want to promote? I like this shirt, man. Where can we get one of those? Where can I get one of those?
Nowhere just yet.
Nowhere just
This, yeah, I got to do like a repressing of these, but I did these back in like 2018 or 19. This is the t-shirt version of this, and this is just one that I had left for myself. So I haven't really been printing them in mass, but every time I wear it, someone asks. So I really do need to make more.
Right,
when I do, I'll let you know.
No, please let me know. And by the time this even come out, man, it might be out. So
it might be, yeah. I got a guy in Miami that might print them for me. But yeah, as far as what to promote, just check me out online, RenDaWriter.com. I'm always working on something. So whatever's new will be out there. You know, follow me on YouTube and Instagram and Facebook and
everything. RenDaWriter?
Yeah, pretty much.
Can you spell it out just for some people?
Yeah, it's RenDaWriter, like writer, like someone who writes, because that's what I do. It's RenDaWriter Art on TikTok, but you could just Google me. You could go to RenDaWriter.com. I'm always working on something, and I'm always available if you want to book me, if you want a mural at your house, or you want a mural at your place of business, or a mural at your school. These are all things that I do. If you want some canvas pieces, my canvases start at $20 and go up to $3-4 grand. So I'm here, you know, and I'm there, and I'm everywhere.
That's right.
You know.
All right, you guys heard it here first. Another episode of the L.A.M.A.R.R Show. We love art, music, and real rap, and we out.
Real rap. Thank you, man. Appreciate you.
Appreciate you, man.
Yeah. Good times.